Well, good afternoon from Riyadh, Lawrence. Before billions of dollars in trade deals are announced when President Trump arrives here in Saudi Arabia tomorrow, a big one announced in Geneva after Trump's top trade representative, his Treasury Secretary, met with their Chinese counterparts to hammer out a new deal. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt earlier.
They also agreed to continue having discussions about opening Chinese markets to American-made products and goods, and they also agreed to continue seriously discussing the grave impact that Chinese-produced fentanyl is having right here in the United States and our people.
And here's President Trump's trade representative, Ambassador Jamieson Greer, on the specifics of this deal.
We come to agreement that our reciprocal tariff rate will go down to 10% on the United States side, so it goes down 115%. We enter into a 90-day pause period for negotiations, which both the Chinese and the United States are very committed to.
Now, U.S., Ukraine, and your other European leaders hoped a 30-day ceasefire would begin today, but Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected it over the weekend, holding a hastily arranged press conference early Sunday morning to propose something different, a face-to-face meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Istanbul, an offer President Trump says Zelensky should accept, and Zelensky says he has. Trump posting, quote, President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey. I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin. Have the meeting now. And earlier when she was on in the last hour, Caroline Leavitt is confirming that Qatar will be gifting a 747 jet to the Department of Defense to be used for a future Air Force One. She says they're still going through the legalities, but says it's legal. Guys, airline diplomacy is nothing new to the Middle East. If you go back to 1945, after Yalta, FDR gifted Saudi King Abdulaziz 3 DC-3 airliners to be used to kickstart Saudi Airlines.
Dragon, the heart and armor and the heart of an American. Make our country great again.
Man, it feels good to do the show at 9:31 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What is up? Today is Monday, May 12th, 2025. And you're going to be locked in for a earth-shattering, world-changing announcement from President Trump before he goes and changes the world. Goodness gracious. Killer Klein, check this out. We might be getting the president in just moments. Here's the live shot. We got you. The live shot. President Trump from inside of the Roosevelt room there. He's got the signing desk. And he's got the world's media at attention before President Trump takes the world by storm. Trump will be storming the globe starting this afternoon. President Trump leaves right after this press briefing. Look at what Trump's done. Trump! Trump's biracial now. Look at that. Would you look at this? Here's the Trump line right now. Trump identifies as a black man. Okay. Very interesting pieces of, they're just doing the sound test right now. Okay, that's not an official announcement. We don't have any sound yet, but we will be locked and loaded as President Trump announced yesterday that he will be making the most significant announcement live from his White House ever. Trump has teased this a lot, and so we'll be locked in for it. Ladies and gentlemen, they're doing a sound test right now, which means the president is inbound. U.S. reaches trade deal with China, and President Trump brings world peace to India and Pakistan, maybe to Israel and Ukraine. Give the damn man his Nobel Peace Prize. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for, I don't know, giving his chef paddleboarding lessons. I'm not sure. Who knows? No one knows. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show. She has news about Jeffrey Epstein. Also, Dan Bongino broke news about Jeffrey Epstein, and more to come from inside of the FBI. We may be headed there this week. We'll tell you all about it. Congressman Wesley Hunt also joins the program. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Okay, President Trump, very soon from the Gold Room. You should learn about gold and an IRS loophole from our friends at Advantage Gold, obviously, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that we talk about a lot, but especially in days when the market will rip. The market's got to be ripping right now. Market ding, 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 ding. Opened like a minute ago. Can we get a shot of the futures, ALX? Just pop those up. Yeah, man. I mean, things are going to be a rocket ship. Things are going to be a roller coaster. Things are going to be up and down. Are you in crypto? Are you in equities? What are you in? Baby, I'm in gold. I diversify a bit with gold, and there's a great strategy you must know about right now. 100% legal loophole that lets you move your 401k, TSP, or IRA into physical gold and silver assets that have stood the test of time. It's not guesswork. It's called a self-directed IRA. Gives you full control of your retirement based on something real, locked into something real. The way my wife and I do it, we have money that is set aside to for operational costs. Then we have our retirement. In our retirement, we want it to be locked down. We're not buying fart coin in our retirement. So as badly as I want, I mean, we've had that conversation, but I lost. We buy gold instead, like this self-directed IRA. Lock it up today. Advantage Gold is hosting a free seminar to show you how it all works. You can qualify for $1,000 in free silver just by attending. Text Benny to 85545 right now to claim your spot. Benny to 85545. Don't wait for losses. Protect your future now. Data and message rates apply. Performance may vary. You should always consult your tax professional. Okay, let's jump on into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the golden era rip roaring right now. Okay, so what's going to happen on your screen in just moments? Well, President Trump put this out on Truth Social yesterday that had the internet completely burned down to its very core. President Trump saying, what's going to happen next is going to be the most important thing I ever post. Enjoy. Okay. Okay. People were burning. The people's phones were on fire, clicking refresh, 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 refresh. My phone's on fire, watching the chat. I'm watching the chat right now. I literally have the chat in front of me on multiple devices. We love the chat, and we love you. Make sure that you roll your comments, by the way, into the comment section, because we'll be putting your comments up on screen while the president is live. President Trump then teased the major announcement multiple times. Let's just play these back-to-back, Killer Klein. Donald Trump saying, I'm about to blow your world. Here we go.
And we'll have maybe before we're going to, as you know, the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. We're going to UAE and Qatar. And that'll be, I guess, Monday night. Some of you are coming with us. I think before then we're going to have a very, very big announcement to make. Like as big as it gets. And I won't tell you on what. But it's going to, and it's very positive. I tell you if it was negative or positive. I can't keep that out. It is really, really positive. And that announcement will be made either Thursday or Friday or Monday before we leave. But it'll be one of the most important announcements that have been made in many years about a certain subject, very important subject. And those days are over. Those days are over. And, I said before in our meeting with the new and very talented Prime Minister of Canada, that we have some very big announcement to make. It's not about trade, it's about something else, but it's going to be a truly earth-shattering and positive development for this country and for the people of this country, and that'll take place sometime within the next few days.
Earth-shattering is in the title of this live, and that's where it comes from. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the futures, and we're going to jump right down into why the futures look so green. It is absolutely eye-piercingly green right now, and a beautiful, beautiful thing. This is, can you toss up the futures here? There you go, Killer Klein. So we are looking down the barrel not only of President Trump making an earth-shattering announcement, and they just dropped a stack of, here, can we go to live shot? Sorry, poor Klein. I'm just bouncing all over the place. They just dropped a stack of executive orders on Trump's desk. So there you go. So now the little man like comes running in and like puts the executive orders down and then scurries away, and there we go. So expect Trump moments in any moment live. Right now, what is a live wire is the American stock market, which is rip freaking roaring. Everything's up 3%, 3 points on the day, and it all just opened, man. So let's freaking go. The reason why this is happening is because a trade deal was announced with China. Now, does this have anything to do with Donald Trump's announcement this morning? Probably. What Trump has been teasing about the announcement this morning is that it has to do with pharmaceutical prices, which does have to do with China because China makes the vast majority of our pharmaceuticals. Americans get ripped off. I was actually with a relative this weekend, and they were talking about how they're paying thousands of dollars per month in their prescription drugs. This is a massive issue. But ALX, would you please grab me polling of generational polling for Trump? I think I know what's going on here. This is the play. I think that President Trump is making a play for boomers. I think that's what's going on. Donald Trump polls so well with every single demographic, especially young people. But it's with the older group of Americans, 65 plus. Some of you are in our audience. Nothing but love. Shout out in the chat. Okay. Nothing but love. But older Americans have different priorities. And I think this might be Donald Trump making a major pivot, right, to make the boomer generation, who by and large got Donald Trump the White House the first time, certainly voted for Donald Trump this last time. Maybe this is a play for that. Okay, here's what Carolyn Levitt has said about it. It's going to have something to do with pharmaceuticals. Here's Carolyn Levitt.
It cannot be overstated how big of a deal this executive order that President Trump will be signing in a couple of hours is for American families, and especially our seniors who have been ripped off by very large and rich pharmaceutical companies. The United States of America is less than 5% of the world's population, yet we purchase 75% of Big Pharma's profits. We pay an astronomical amount in comparison to other countries around the world. So the president is signing an executive order today that is going to implement most favored nations drug pricing, and is going to reduce the cost of drugs in this country by more than half at least. America is going to pay a better rate and a fairer rate to the rest of the world.
All right, here we go. Here's the polling. We got the polling up. The problem with President Trump: over 60. Over 60. Ding, ding, ding. There we go. Donald Trump has a negative rating. Trump approval might be a boring 50% right now, but the age demos are wild. He's got 45%, 46% in the above 40, and then he's got a 60% approval rating for young people. So young people love what President Trump is doing. They love the first crypto president. They love world peace. Obviously, this is something that went thermonuclear this weekend. I said, give Trump the Peace Prize, damn it. Just do it right now. Just do it right now. Look at this man. He has delivered peace in Ukraine and Russia. Zelensky and Putin will meet this week. Boy, howdy, Killer Klein. We better be locked in. I'm going to be live for that one. Zelensky and Putin will meet this week. They'll do it live on our channel. They're going to do it in... What is it? Is it Istanbul? They've decided on some neutral place to meet. They're going to be meeting in some neutral location. I think the guys should just fight it out. Frankly, if you just had Dana White set up an octagon and you just put it right there on the front lines and you did it right at dusk and you just had Putin and Zelensky fight, and Zelensky had to take a drug test, right? You can't be high on coke to do this. That's a very interesting little snippet too, by the way, if you wouldn't mind grabbing me that. But Russia, Ukraine, what's going on? Maybe peace this week. Israel, Hamas. Well, there's absolutely a ceasefire, right? India, Pakistan. President Trump announced that he's negotiated a peace deal with India and Pakistan. These are two nuclear powers. This is not good. You have real problems when two nuclear powers start lobbing nukes at each other. That's how the world gets ugly real fast. And what do young people intrinsically know? Well, something that boomers don't. That we all go die in these wars. It's us who die, right? It's us whose lives get stolen and whose treasure gets robbed. It's our futures that go bye-bye. And so this is why Trump is so popular with young people. Trump's also very mimetic. He has this great, young, energetic personality. Boomers more or less are looking at the stock market, not liking the structural instability, right, of some Donald Trump shifting the chess pieces around. So that's where you get this massive dip in approval rating for boomers. President Trump might come over the top today, and that might be what this announcement is about. But I know it's going to be about China too. Anyway, the point is, he's not starting war with Iran. That's a very fascinating thing that's going on here. Visiting North Korea in peace, reasserting the dominance of Western civilization. Give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump announced that he had negotiated peace with India and Pakistan this weekend. I don't know if we have that truth in the program, but let's go ahead and grab that if we can, please. Donald Trump's announcement that happened over the weekend. Funny, in any other news cycle, that would be the biggest thing that we'd be talking about for weeks on end, right? Because India was bombing Pakistan. Pakistan was bombing India. They have nuclear weapons pointed at each other. Not good, very bad. The region, the people clearly hate each other. There's always problems on that border, Kashmir, and so on. President Trump brings peace without, well, not before shots were fired. There were shots fired. I think there's been casualties on both sides. Anyway, this is due to a terrorist attack that happened in the region, and it could have popped off and became something very ugly. The way that I saw it was the globalists wanted to start Ukraine War II, right? They always need a war. You need a war that you can materially influence, that the worst people can get rich off of both sides dying. And here's Donald Trump saying, nah, here's what happened. I brought an immediate and full ceasefire to the region. Congratulations to both countries. I love how he says congratulations, like they won a game show. Yeah, like India and Pakistan were on The Price is Right, and they both got a camper. Thank you for your attention to this matters. Donald Trump. Please announce to India and Pakistan peace deal. All right. What else announcements this morning? U.S. and China agree to slash tariffs temporary after trade talks. Boom. Here we go. This is what sent the markets soaring. This and world peace. Obviously, the markets do well when there's not the structural instability of war, right? War isn't good for markets. They close down markets. They stop trade. They stop planes from flying over places like India and Pakistan, who had a total lockdown in their region. And oh, by the way, here we go. Nope. Okay. All right. We'll put there's just like people milling about on the screen. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. Oh, they're bringing in another I told you. Good old ALX AI, we call him. ALX had an instinct that there's going to be more to this press conference and that we better go live for it. So you can see here them wheeling in more charts, more graphs, more hidden announcements. There they go. And what are they doing? Okay, they're putting a look at that. We talked. Look at that. That's Donald Trump's hair over the world. That's what it is. There it is. It's the Golden Dome for men. We told you. We told you. Man, this is why we love you. We love you. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for building this movement together. We knew it wasn't just about like, we want our pill prices down. That's fine. That's important. Obviously, this is, again, I had a family member who's like really hurting right now because they had bad bouts with cancer and heart problems, and they need very expensive medication. So I'm not discounting that. I'm saying this was going to be about something bigger. And now they just put the Trump Golden Dome over the top of America. They just brought that in. Oh, okay. And now they're taking them away. Okay. Anyway, that's what's going on screen. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? That's what's going to happen soon. We're waiting. Let's get to this, though, very quickly. U.S. and China agreed to slash tariffs after trade talks. There were trade talks in Geneva, Switzerland. Okay? And here come the new deals with China. China has lowered their tariffs on America to catastrophically low numbers. Everybody is cheering this. The markets are roaring. Let's let her rip. Here's what the details are. The United States and China agreed to a 90-day truce. Raging trade war, each agreeing now to slash reciprocal tariffs by 100 percentage points, bringing China's rate down to just 10%, America's down to 30% on Chinese goods. This is obviously massive. Stock market rose sharply on the news. The consensus from both delegations this weekend was neither side wants a decoupling. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the high-stakes talks with Chinese officials in Switzerland. And what occurred was a very high tariff, was an embargo, the equivalent of an embargo. Neither side wants that. We want fair trade. We want balanced trade. We want both sides committed to achieving that. So President Trump, massive W. President Trump brings world peace, then he brings massive W here in the trade war. They said it couldn't be done, and here it is, Donald Trump bringing China to its knees. Moo, goo, guy, pan. So what I think is the most important part about, obviously, this relationship is that you take China off of the American consumer base for a month. That's what's happened. So China got decoupled for just 1 month. It's been 1 month without American consumers for China, and China is now groveling. Daddy, Trump, please, Donald, We will do anything. He was right. Trump said, you don't have the cards. We have the cards. This is master negotiation with some of the most, some of the most prideful and stubborn and angry and communist people on earth. And Trump is bending them to his will. What a beautiful thing to see. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Scott Bessent this morning on China. This is obviously the Secretary of the Treasury, who took a massive risk here and is winning.
What has to happen is it has to be fair for the American people. But in January 2020, President Trump produced a template. We had an excellent trade agreement with China, and the Biden administration chose not to enforce it. The Chinese delegation basically told us that once President Biden came into office, they just ignored their obligations. So, we all already have a large framework. The other thing to remember here, Jonathan, is that this is a pause down to 10%. The April 2nd level for China is 34%. So we will be working to see where their final reciprocal number ends up. And the negotiations are a combination of tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, currency manipulation, and subsidies of labor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we had to cut off the Treasury Secretary because here's what we see. You're hearing what we can hear right now. We have RFK Jr. We have Dr. Mehmet Oz. We have Jay Bhattacharya. And now we have President Trump. Live.
Thank
right
you
now.
very much.
Live.
Thank you,
right
everybody.
Now.
It's a big day. Should be fun. I don't know. You'll maybe find reasons why it's not, but I can't imagine because we have a lot of great things happening. It's been a very strong week and a very strong weekend. Before we begin, let me say a few words about the historic events that took place over the last few days. On Saturday, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons. And they were going at it hot and heavy, and it was seemingly not going to stop. And I'm very proud to let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases. And having these, they really were, from the standpoint of having the strength and the wisdom and fortitude to fully know and to understand the gravity of the situation. And we helped a lot. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have. And they did it for a lot of reasons, but trade is a big one. We're going to do a lot of trade with Pakistan. We're going to do a lot of trade with India. We're negotiating with India right now. We're going to be soon negotiating with Pakistan. And we stopped the nuclear conflict. I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed. So I'm very proud of that. I also want to thank Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio for their work and efforts. They worked very hard on that. We also, as you know, created a situation where the Houthis, for the first time ever, have ceased firing, and they've let it be known that they're not going to be firing at American ships anymore, not going to be firing at Americans anymore. This was a heavy barrage that lasted for approximately 50 days. And as you know, they've been in war essentially for forever. But over the last 10 years, they've been very difficult for other countries. Nobody was able to do what we did. But they stopped, and we take their word for it. Their surrogates and them directly said, we don't want to do this anymore. And so we were satisfied with that. In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue on the larger structural issues. And I want to tell you that a couple of things. First of all, that doesn't include the tariffs that are already on, that are our tariffs. And it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back to the United States. And they're already starting to come back now based on tariffs. Because they don't want to pay 25, 50, or 100% tariffs. So they're moving them back to the United States. I spoke to Tim Cook this morning, and he's going to, I think, even up his numbers, $500 billion. He's going to be building a lot of plants in the United States for Apple. And we look forward to that. I really do look forward to that. But the talks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. We have some other things we're doing. But one of the biggest things that we're doing, and I don't know if people realize this, but we made a great deal with China, great trade deal, but it was a much bigger deal originally, and then they canceled it right in the last day. Some of you faces I remember were there when that happened. I remember you. And we had a deal where they opened up their country to trade with the United States, and they took that away at the last moment, and then I canceled the whole thing. And then 6 months later, we ended up doing a smaller deal, but it was a big deal. It was $50 billion worth of product that they were going to purchase from our farmers, et cetera. And we agreed to that. People thought it was 15 because they were doing 15. We made it 50 because I misunderstood the 15. I said, you got to get 50. Because when I asked, if you remember the story, when I asked, what are we doing with them? My Secretary of Agriculture at the time, Sonny Perdue, said, sir, it's about 15 billion and we're asking for 15. And I thought he said 50. So I said, so they came back with the deal at 15. And I said, no way, I want 50 because you said 50. They said, sir, we didn't say that anyway. Bottom line, I said, go back and ask for 50. And they gave us 50. And they were honoring the deal. And we would call them up a lot for the corn and for the wheat and for everything. They were honoring the deal. And then when Biden got in, they no longer honored the deal. There was nobody to call. I would call on an average of once every 2 weeks to say, come on, you have to speed it up a little bit. And our farmers were doing great. I said to them, buy more land and bigger tractors, if you remember. That's what happened. But the deal was a very good deal. But the best part of the deal was that we opened up China. China agreed to open itself up to American business to go in. And it would have been a great thing, I think, for China. They would be able to see things that they haven't seen. They would be able to buy products that they have never been able to buy. Would have been great for American business. I think it would have brought unity between China, better unity between China and the United States. And the bottom line is that they canceled it the last day. We were all set to sign it. And then I went a little bit angry. I got a little angry. I said, they canceled the deal. The deal was done. It was all ready to be signed. And people went over, they came back to me, sir, they don't want to sign the opening up China. Well, the biggest thing that we're discussing is the opening up China, and they've agreed to do that, but it's going to take a while to paper it. You know, that's not the easiest thing to paper. But that's the single, I think, to me, some people would disagree. Some people would say we're getting a lot of money with tariffs or whatever. But, you know, especially when you add what we already have, because remember, we're already getting the 50% on steel and different things. That's not included in these numbers. So you can add that. But the biggest thing to me is the opening up. I think it would be fantastic for our businesses if we could go in and compete with China. It would be a lot of jobs for China. It would be, I think, at a time when they can frankly use the jobs. And that's what we're talking about. So that's a very, very important element to add. So when Scott, I watched him speak the other day, and I think he didn't want to say it, but I said, it's okay to say it. Look, if we don't get it, we don't get it. But if we don't get it, it won't be a positive thing. But if we do get it, I think it's maybe the most important thing to happen. Because if you think about it, we opened up our country to China. They have very few restrictions. And they didn't open their country to us. Never made sense to me. It's not fair. And they've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for unification and peace. China will also suspend and remove all of its non-monetary barriers. They've agreed to do that. Well, they're very numerous. But again, to me, the biggest thing that came out of that meeting is they've agreed. Now we have to get it papered, but they've agreed to open up China. It's going to be great for everybody. And third, I'm very happy to announce that Idan Alexander, an American citizen who until recently most thought was no longer living, thought was dead, is going to be released in about 2 hours, actually. And he's going to be released before the eyes of Steve Witkoff, who has done a fantastic job. I know a lot of people that have a lot of talent. I know Steve had a lot of talent. But I know a lot of people with a lot of talent, but there's one that I thought had a special way about him, special personality. Aside from being a good deal maker, had a special way about him, and it was Steve. Knew very little about the subject matter, who does? But he learned it in about 2 hours. And he's been fantastic. So I want to just thank Steve. But they're going to be releasing Idan in about 2 hours from now, or sometime today, let's say. And again, they thought he was dead just a short while ago. His parents are so happy. They're so happy. So it's, as you know, Idan's the only American citizen who's captured and held hostage by Hamas since October 7th, 2023. And he's coming home to his parents, which is really great news. I mean, to me, it's big news. They thought he was dead. So that's that. So we'll be heading there, and we'll be seeing 3 primary countries. You know all about that: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. On Thursday's meeting with Russia and Ukraine is very important. I was very insistent that meeting take place. I think good things can come out of that meeting. Stop the bloodshed of the horrible. It's a bloodbath. But that 5,000 more, it's really much more. I'm trying to be conservative, more than 5,000 soldiers. Russian, they're not American soldiers. They're from Russia, they're from Ukraine, but they're people. They're human souls, and they're being killed at levels that we haven't seen since the Second World War. And it's every week. A lot of drone fighting. It's a whole new form of warfare, and it's violent and vicious. And so that's it. I'd like to go back to China just for a second. They're very heavy on the fentanyl. We're charging them, as you know, 20% for the fact that they send fentanyl into our country. And they've agreed that they're going to stop that. And, they'll be rewarded by not having to pay, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. So the fentanyl should stop. It comes from China. It's amazing. And comes through our southern border, comes through our northern border too, comes through Canada, and comes through our southern border, much more through the southern border. But so that's a very important subject to me, because everybody in this room has lost friends or people that have family members that have died of fentanyl. So there's a big incentive for China to stop, and I take them at their word. They're going to work on that, I think, very hard. And one thing, when they work on something, they get it done. So now I'm about to depart on a historic visit. Some of you are going with us to, as I said, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. Before I do, I'll sign one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. I don't think there's ever been anything signed like this, certainly not with respect to healthcare, nothing even close. I'm delighted to be joined on this occasion by Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is doing a really good job, I have to tell you that. CMS Administrator, a friend of mine, Dr. Mehmet Oz, who is an amazing guy. You know, I was telling Bobby before, Oz had a very successful show, but it hurt his reputation. Because when you're in show business, it hurts your reputation a little bit. It's good for you. It's good for you. But in terms of professionalism and being a doctor, it sort of hurts your reputation. This guy went to the best schools, was the best, I mean, top of the line. Then he did a television show, became a success, made a lot of money, all that stuff, but it sort of hurt him. And you know who I compare that to? I hate to say this, but a special woman, Jeanine Pirro. She was the toughest, smartest DA, maybe in our countries, in our cities and states, history, New York. She was really tough, really sharp. Then she did a show, and people didn't think of her quite the same way. She became more of an entertainment person, like Oz. Oz is not an entertainer. He's not really an entertainer, if you know the real story. And she isn't either. She is unbelievable. She was one of the strongest district attorneys in the history of New York, highly respected, very tough, went after the drug dealers at a level that you don't see today anymore. And hopefully she's given up she's leaving the number one show on cable television, one of the number one shows on television, period, The Five, but they've got great people left behind, but she was a big part of it. And so I equate it to that. Jeanine Pirro is unbelievable. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary, with a reputation that's second to none, and the job he's doing already has been fantastic. Thank you, Marty. And Director of National Institute of Health, Jay Bhattacharya, who has been, as you know, from Stanford, so highly regarded, and have all been working with us very hard on this. And the question they would ask, being a little bit new to the government aspect of it, is why doesn't somebody fight the drug price situation, meaning equalization? There's a term, it's called equalization. Nobody wants to mention that term. And I'm not knocking the drug companies. I'm really more knocking the countries than the drug companies, because they're forced to do things. But the drug lobby is the strongest lobby in this country, they say, the drug lobby. It's between that and lawyers, and they have a lot of power. But starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care. Countries where they paid a small fraction of what, for the same drug, that what we pay many, many times more for. And we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma. But again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing, but they've gotten away with it, these countries. European Union has been brutal. And the drug companies actually told me stories. It was just brutal how they forced them. And European Union suing all our companies, Apple, Google, Meta. They're suing all of our companies. They end up, they have judges that are European Union-centric, and they get rewarded $15 billion, $17 billion, $20 billion, and they use that to run their operation. Not going to happen any longer, that I can tell you. So what's been happening is we've been subsidizing other countries throughout the world, not just in Europe, throughout the world. European Union was the most difficult, from what I understand. I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88 And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on? He said, so I checked. And it's the same box, made in the same plant, by the same company. It's the identical pill that I buy in New York. And here I'm paying $88 in London. In New York, I'm paying $1,300. Now, this is a great businessman, but he's not familiar with this crazy situation that we have. But he was stunned. But it was just one of those stories. And I brought it up with the drug companies, represented by somebody who's very, very smart, good person too. And we argued about it for about half hour. And then finally he just said, because they can't justify it, he just said, look, you got me. You got me. I can no longer they've been justifying this crap for years. They said, oh, it's research and development. Well, I said, well, research and development, other countries should pay research and development too. It's for their benefit. It was just one of those things. And the other countries would set a price and they'd meet the price. And they'd say, if you don't meet the price, you can't sell it in our country. I said, well, then you walk away and, they'll call you back and they'll sell it in the country. But now they'll have to do that. So for the first time in many years, we'll slash the cost of prescription drugs and we will bring fairness to America. Drug prices will come down by much more, really, if you think 59. If you think of a drug that is sometimes 10 times more expensive, it's much more than the 59%. It depends on the way you want to analyze it. But in one way, you could analyze it that way. But between 59 and 80, and I guess even 90%. So when I worked so hard in the first term, and if I got prices down, remember I was the only one to ever get prices down for a full year, but I'd get them down like 2%, and I thought it was like a big deal. Well, we're getting them down 60, 70, 80, 90%, but actually more than that if you think about it in the way mathematically. And Pharma has to say, we're sorry, but we'll not be able to do this any longer to these countries that have been so tough. They've been very tough, nasty. It's trade. It's trade. And pharma is also very powerful. And the Democrats have protected pharma. This is the Democrats have protected pharma. These are the Democrats. And by the way, I just called the Speaker of the House, and I just called the leader, our leader in the Senate, John Thune, Mike Johnson. Spoke to both of them. I said, when you score, you're going to have to score two things. You're going to have to, number one, score that hundreds of billions of dollars of tariff money is coming in. But even bigger than that, you're going to have to score that your cost for Medicaid and Medicare and just basically pharmaceuticals and drugs is going down at a level that nobody has ever seen before. It'll pay for the Golden Dome. I see the Golden Dome is there, see? That'll easily pay for the Golden Dome. And we'll have a lot of money left over. We need the Golden Dome, by the way, in this world. Although this world's a lot safer today than it was a week ago, and a lot safer than it was 6 months ago. We had people that had no clue what they were doing. So today, Americans spend 70% more for prescription drugs than we spent in the year 2000. Think of that. Our country has the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by sometimes a factor of 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's not like they're slightly higher. They're 6, 7, 8 times. There are even cases of 10 times higher. So that you go 10 times more expensive for the same drug, that's big numbers. Even though the United States is home to only 4% of the world's population, pharmaceutical companies make more than 2/3 of their profits in America. So think of that. With 4% of the population, the pharmaceutical companies make most of their money, most of their profits from America. That's not a good thing. Now, I think, by the way, I have great respect for these companies and for the people that run them. I really do. And I think they did one of the greatest jobs in history for their company, convincing people for many years that this was a fair system. Nobody really understood why, but I figured it out. For years, pharmaceutical and drug companies have said that research and development costs were what they are, and for no reason whatsoever. They had to be borne by America alone. Not anymore, they don't. This means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany, in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. And I see that. I see that with trade too. European Union is in many ways nastier than China. Okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot. You watch. We have all the cards. They treated us very unfairly. They sell us 13 million cars. We sell them none. They sell us their agricultural products. We sell them virtually none. They don't take our products. That gives us all the cards, and very unfair. So they're going to have to pay more for health care, and we're going to have to pay less. That's all it is. And believe it or not, because it's really the world we're talking about, not just the European Union, but because it's the world, the numbers are for the healthcare company not as bad as you would think. They'll make the same. I think the healthcare companies should make pretty much the same money. I really don't believe they should be affected very much, because it's just a redistribution of wealth. It's a redistribution where it could be the same top line, but it's going to be distributed differently. Europe's going to have to pay a little bit more. The rest of the world's going to have to pay a little bit more, and America's going to pay a lot less. Again, because it's a much smaller population than when you think of the whole world. So basically what we're doing is equalizing. There's a new word that I came up with, which I think is probably the best word. We're going to equalize, where we're all going to pay the same. We're going to pay what Europe's going to pay. We're going to all pay. Now, there may be some countries in dire need, and I would be willing to sacrifice that, and help them. But it's called most favored nation. We are going to pay the lowest price there is in the world. We will get whoever is paying the lowest price. That's the price that we're going to get. So remember that. So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. Whoever is paying the lowest price, we will look at that price and we will say that's the price we're going to pay. Most favored nations. That's what it is. One breast cancer drug costs Americans over $16,000 per bottle. But the same drug from the same factory, manufactured by the same company, is 1/6 that price in Australia and 1/10 that price in Sweden. 1/10 for the identical product. A common asthma drug costs almost $500 here in America, but costs less than $40 in the United Kingdom. So $40 in the United Kingdom, which is where this gentleman told me he paid a small amount for his shot. But think of that. So $40 versus $500 here. That's not even bad. There are much worse examples. And the weight loss drug, Ozempic, costs 10 times more in the United States than in the rest of the developed world. 10 times more. Why? What did we do? Suckers. But we never had a president that had the courage to do this. And nobody knew the system like I do. I mean, I've gotten to know this system so well. And I don't think it's fair that it benefits Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. It's not a good health care. It works. I made it work. I had an obligation to make it work, or an obligation to let it die. I chose that we had to make it work. I had to make it as good as possible. And I had a choice. I could have let it fail or make it as good as possible. As good as possible means it was still not very good, but it survived. And we did the right thing. But this makes everything work. And I don't want to have a bad form of healthcare work because of the fact I was able to cut drug prices by 80 or 90%. So we're going to maybe come up with something. I think this gives the Republicans a chance to actually do a health care that's much better than Obamacare and for less money, which if you guys would work on that along with Congress. But I do want to say that Democrats could have done this a long time ago. They have fought like hell for the drug companies, and they knew they were doing the wrong thing. And it's going to be very hard. I was just telling the leader and the speaker that it's going to be very hard for the Democrats to vote against the one big, beautiful deal. the greatest tax cuts in history, greatest everything, but now you have the big drug prices because that's going to be included. It makes that whole situation different from a scoring standpoint. I just told them, I called them up about this. I said, I'm going to do something that's going to be very monumental, and you're going to be scoring. You better tell your people that this is going to score really well, and then add hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs to your list also. But as big as the tariffs are, this is something that really hits quickly. 5 years ago, I signed an executive order to confront this disaster, but only confront it in a minor way. It was a good confrontation, but never to this extent. And took people a little while to understand a very complicated system. But Joe Biden, without any knowledge of what he was doing, terminated the policy and then pretended to negotiate under a new system. And then you take a look, 5 out of the 10 drugs that he negotiated are now over 200% more expensive in America than the rest of the world, and far more expensive than when he even got involved. Much more expensive than when he got involved. Joe Biden's plan was as you know, because you wrote about it, you don't say it very loudly, but it was a very big failure, was his whole presidency. First, I'm directing the U.S. trade representatives and Department of Commerce to begin investigations into foreign nations that extort drug companies by blocking their products unless they accept bottom line and very low dollar amounts for their product, unfairly shifting the cost burden onto American patients. And we'll be taking a look at that very strongly. The biggest thing we're going to do is we're going to tell those countries, like those represented by the European Union, that, that game is up, sorry. And if they want to get cute, then they don't have to sell cars into the United States anymore. It's a very big subject. And they won't get cute, because I'll defend the drug companies from that standpoint. They were given a price by the European Unions and other countries. This is what you do. This is what we're going to pay. We're not going to pay any more. Let America pay the difference, because there was a big shortfall. Let America pay it. And that's what we did, but we're not doing it anymore. Next, my administration will secure what we're calling most favored nations drug pricing. The principle is simple. Whatever the lowest price paid for a drug in other developed countries, that is the price that Americans will pay. And we're using the term other developed countries because there are some countries that need some additional help, and that's fine. I think that's very good. Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80 to 90%. Big Pharma will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries. To accelerate these price restrictions and reductions, my administration will also cut out the middlemen. We're going to totally cut out the famous middlemen. Nobody knows who they are, middlemen. I've been hearing the term for 25 years, middlemen. I don't know who they are, but they're rich. That I can tell you. We're going to cut out the middlemen and facilitate the direct sale of drugs at the most favored nation price directly to the American citizen. So we're cutting out, Bobby, the middlemen. It's so important, right? They got to do that. They're worse than the drug companies. They don't even make a product, and they make a fortune. It's very smart business people, that I can tell you. If companies make no significant progress toward most favored nation pricing, which we will insist that they do, so I think I'm wasting time talking about it. We're going to insist upon it. And we'll insist, and we're going to help the drug companies with the other nations, because those other nations do a lot of trading with us. They need our trade, just like China needed us very badly. They need us just as badly. We will do whatever we have to with trade, just like we did some great things with trade with India and Pakistan. It really helped the situation, very heated situation. Could have lost millions of people, more than millions. I mean, many millions of people. And they want to do business with America, but we never used our powers that way. We never knew how. We never had people that knew how to do that. We'll also open up America's market to safe and legal imports of affordable drugs from other countries, putting dramatic downward pressure on prices. And if necessary, we'll investigate the drug companies, and we'll, in particular, investigate the countries that are doing this, and we will add it onto the price that we charge them for doing business in America. In other words, we'll add it on to tariffs if they don't do what is right, which is everybody should equalize. Everybody should pay the same price. And special interests may not like this very much, but the American people will. I am doing this for the American people. I'm doing this against the most powerful lobby in the world, probably the drug lobby, drug and pharmaceutical lobby. But it's one of the most important orders, I think, that's ever been signed, certainly with regard to health care or health in the history of our country. And it's an honor to be a part of it. And I'd like to ask Robert F. Kennedy to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an extraordinary day. This is an issue that, I grew up in the Democratic Party, and every major Democratic leader for 20 years has been making this promise to the American people. This was the fulcrum of Bernie Sanders' runs for presidency, that he was going to eliminate this discrepancy between Europe and the United States. But as it turns out, none of them were doing it. It's one of these promises that politicians make to their constituents, knowing that they'll never have to do it. And the reason they'll never have to do it is because they know that Congress is controlled in so many ways by the pharmaceutical industry. There's at least one pharmaceutical lobbyist for every congressman, every senator on Capitol Hill, and every member of the Supreme Court. By some estimates, 3. Pharmaceutical companies, the industry itself spends 3 times what the next largest lobbyist spends on lobbying. So this was an issue that people talked about, but nobody wanted to do anything because it was radioactive. They knew you couldn't get it by Congress. We now have a president who is a man of his word, who has the courage. President Trump was taking money from the pharmaceutical industry too. I think they gave you $100 million, but he can't be bought, unlike most of the politicians in this country. And he is standing here for the American people. I don't know what, there's writers like Lord Elizabeth Warren or Robert Reich who are saying that President Trump is on this side of the oligarchs. There has never been a president more willing to stand up to the oligarchs than President Donald Trump. And I'm very, very proud of you, Mr. President, for your courage, I'll say, because I don't want to be crude, your intestinal fortitude, your stiff spine, and your willingness to stand up for the American people. We have 4.2% of the world's population. Our country represents 75% of the revenues for pharmaceutical companies. We spend in our country $1,126 per capita on drugs. In Britain, they spend about $240. They spend 1/5 of what we do. And this is true across Europe. And the drug companies, Europeans, if you ask them, it made no sense what they were saying. America has to pay for this innovation or it's not going to happen. What President Trump is saying to our European partners is you got to raise the amount that you're paying for those drugs and pay for your share of the innovation. That the United States is no longer subsidizing that. If the Europeans raise the price of their drugs by just 20%, that is $10 trillion that can be spent on innovation, and the health of all people all across the globe is going to increase because we're going to have better products. So I'm just so grateful to be here today. I never thought that this would happen in my lifetime. I have a couple of kids who are Democrats, are big Bernie Sanders fans. And when I told them that this was going to happen, they had tears in their eyes because they thought this is never going to happen in our lifetime. And we finally have a president who's willing to stand up for the American people. Thank you. And Dr. Oz.
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy. This is the most powerful executive order on pharmacy pricing and healthcare ever in the history of our nation. And it's only happening because we have a president with the fortitude, the guts to stand up to the withering criticism and lobbying that's going to occur as soon as folks hear about the executive order. So On behalf of the child in Philadelphia who's got an autoimmune disease with a $1,000 a month drug, or the older woman in Los Angeles who's on a blood thinner who can't afford her copay, I want to thank President Trump. God bless you for having the guts to take on this industry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk about the details a little bit. And this is primarily about equalization, as President Trump said. It's about fairness. Think of NATO as a metaphor. When President Trump said, you've got to pay a little more, so it makes sense for all of us, they came up. And the European countries contributed. The same thing we believe will happen in this situation. Most people who have thought about this process agree that it is patently unfair to tolerate the numbers that Secretary Kennedy and President Trump have reflected to you. On this chart to my left is a list of the 10 drugs that were negotiated in the IRA. Again, this is the bill, the law that regulates a negotiation process. This is the best price that was able to be obtained by the Biden administration. And if you look at these numbers, they actually reflect how much on top of the most favored nation price was being paid by the United States. So the closest to me, and Bob, you can point to the Jardinians, the closest one, 289%, the one that's closest to you. That means that we are paying in America 4 times more than that drug costs in other countries. Again, 100% is the baseline. It's 289% above that baseline. It goes all the way down to when we're paying 50% more than any other country. That's the range. As was pointed out by President Trump, half the time we're paying 3 times more than is paid in other countries. It doesn't make any sense for the system. That stated, President Trump has over and over again indicated, and Secretary Kennedy reflected as well, we want innovation. We want our technology partners doing the best they can to make the best solutions for drugs that cure as many people in America and around the world as possible. By getting our allies to pay a bit more, as they should be, and they should have for many years been doing, will course correct a problem that's gotten out of hand. And by doing that in a thoughtful, effective way, we're going to be able to get the pharmaceutical industry whole. Those jobs will still be here, will still be productive, will still be curing cancer and a slew of other ailments that plague humanity. America will still be the leader in this space, but we'll be paying the appropriate amount, the right-sized amount for those tasks. So over the next 30 days, the 4 of us up here, together with people standing in the back of this room, we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting, are going to be approaching pharmaceutical companies to talk specifically about what we want the most favored nation price to be based on the best data we have. We're looking forward to a thoughtful interaction with these corporate leaders, many of whom we've spoken to and in quiet will agree the system is not right the way it is. They're patriotic Americans. They want what's right. But the fact that in my lifetime, as Secretary Kennedy said, for the first time, we have a thoughtful and aggressive approach, thanks to President Trump, on taking on the special interests, should give all Americans confidence that this is an administration that stands for fairness, and it should chill the waters for those who believe they can push us away from our North Star, which is to take care of the American people. Mr. President, God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jay, you want to go next?
Sure.
Good.
So I teach economics at Stanford as well as health policy. And one thing that's really, really simple in economics is that when you have a persistent price difference for the same product between 2 countries, there is something deeply wrong. And what President Trump has done is a historic measure that should have been done a long time ago. What we're going to do is make sure that those prices become much closer to equal, like a competitive market you'd expect. Right now, what's happening is the American people are subsidizing in large fraction the research and development efforts for drug companies around the world by the higher prices that we pay. With this new order, Europe will share the burden of that. And in fact, if you may think of it as like as somehow it's like it's going after drug companies, actually it's helping drug companies. Because what we're also going to do with this order, what President Trump has done with this order, is he's said to European governments, look, if you are taking advantage of the drug companies by forcing them to charge very, very low prices, we're going to defend American drug companies in Europe. At the same time, we're standing up for the American consumer who's been paying far too high prices for far too long. I can go back decades to point to congressional reports after government report after government report of tremendously high drug prices, much higher than the rest of the world. And nothing has been done about it until this moment. And I'm really, really proud, President Trump, that you've done this. I'm really proud to be included in this and looking forward to the work ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the many doctors I've talked to about this very issue, thank you for taking the bull by the horns. Presidents on both sides of the aisle have talked about this and floated it and said they've wanted to do it. So you've had the courage to do it. Thank you. I've been a surgical oncologist at Johns Hopkins for 22 years, and I have seen patients suffer. We didn't take an oath to heal patients and then watch their life get ruined financially, with their home, mortgage, retirement, going down the drain with GoFundMe campaigns, raising money from church communities and synagogues and friends they haven't seen in 20 years to try to raise money for what? For a system where Americans have been getting ripped off by 10, 12, 15 times higher prices than we see in other countries. The fundamental problem in healthcare is that we've had non-competitive markets. We can do little things around the edges, or we can transform those markets to competitive markets. And that's what this executive order does today. Imagine buying a Ford for $175,000, a regular car, and then hearing that people in London are buying it for $10,000 every day, all day long. That is the craziness of this system. We're going to do everything we can at the FDA to support this executive order. It's transformative. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody. I think it's a very important day. In many ways, you have, we'll start with the Houthis. We go to Pakistan and India. We go to what we did with China, the trade deal, and with UK. And by the way, many other deals are coming in very much. At a certain point, we'll just set the price because we know where we are, but we'll just set the price. But world trade is going to be terrific, and our country is going to be making a lot of money. Taxes are going to go down. Taxes are going to go down very, very substantially. But you look at all of the things that we've done, and now today I'm heading over. We'll see what we're going to do with respect to Iran. I think you have very good things happening there, too, by the way. I think can't have a nuclear weapon, but I think that they are talking intelligently. We're in the midst of talking to them, and they're right now acting very intelligent. We want Iran to be wealthy and wonderful and happy and great, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. So I think they understand that I mean business, and I think they're being very reasonable thus far. And don't underestimate Thursday in Turkey. President Erdogan is going to be a great host. And we are doing some work with him having to do with Syria, too, by the way. We're going to have to make a decision on the sanctions, which we may very well relieve. We may take them off of Syria because we want to give them a fresh start. But President Erdogan's asked me about that. Many people have asked me about that because the way we have them sanctioned, it doesn't really give them much of a start. So we want to see if we can help them out. So we'll make that determination. But I think you're going to have maybe a good meeting. You have the potential for a good meeting, that a meeting wasn't going to take place. I insisted that that meeting take place. And it is taking place. And I think you may have a good result out of the Thursday meeting in Turkey between Russia and Ukraine. And I believe the two leaders were going to be there. I was thinking about flying over. I don't know where I'm going to be on Thursday. I've got so many meetings. But I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess, if I think things can happen. But we got to get it done. We got to save 5,000 lives a week. 5,000 lives is really more than that. It's worse than that. And when you see and you don't want to see it, but when you see the satellite photographs of the battlefield with arms and legs and heads all over the place, separated by 30 yards from bodies, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So we're working very hard to see if we can end that bloodbath. Okay, there shouldn't be too many questions. It's been covered pretty well.
Mr. President, thank you for taking questions. Two quick ones for you, starting on trade. If a longer-term deal is not reached with China at the end of these 90 days, can the American people expect those tariffs to go back up to 145%?
No, but they would go up substantially higher.
Okay. And then
at 145, you're really decoupling because nobody's going to buy. But they can go, they got very high because of additional tariffs I applied during the course because of fentanyl and other things. But no, but they'd go substantially higher.
And then on Qatar, Mr. President,
I think you will have a deal, however.
Okay, you're confident that there will be a deal. On Qatar, has Qatar asked for anything in exchange for that $400 million luxury jumbo jet? And how can the American people be so sure that they will not in the future?
Well, I think what happens with the plane is that, we're very disappointed that it's taking Boeing so long to build a new Air Force One. We have an Air Force One that's 40 years old. And if you take a look at that compared to the new plane of the equivalent, stature at the time, it's not even the same ball game. You look at some of the Arab countries and the planes they have parked alongside of the United States of America plane. It's like from a different planet. And it's close to 40 years old, might be more than 40 years old now. And we, when I first came in, I signed an order to get it built. I took it over from the Obama administration. They had originally agreed. I got the price down much lower. And then when the election didn't exactly work out the way that it should have, a lot of work was not done on the plane because a lot of people didn't know. They made change orders that were so stupid, so ridiculous. And it ended up being a total mess, a real mess. And when I came back, I said, by the way, what's going on with the Boeings that are coming in? Well, sir, they're way behind. And they are. They're way behind. They were way behind. Another mess that I inherited from Biden. And it's going to be a while before we get them. And I think Qatar, who we've helped them a lot over the years in terms of security and safety. I think they, and very, very nicely, and I have a lot of respect for the leadership and for the leader, Qatar. And I think they knew about it because they buy Boeings. They buy a lot of Boeings. And they knew about it. And they said, we would like to do something. And if we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too. And it helps us out because, again, we're talking about we have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture. And I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to, we will continue to, all of those countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and others, we keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith. And I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. They get to a certain age, they decommission them. It'll go to my library. They're talking about going to my library in years out. But I thought it was a great gesture. And it's something that was done by Ronald Reagan. They actually decommissioned the plane and he put it in his library. And it actually has made the library, I think, a Boeing 707. It's actually made the library more successful. So it was good.
Do you plan to use the plane after you leave office?
No, I don't. No, it would go directly to the library after I leave office. I wouldn't be using it. No.
Mr. President, on the hostage, you said that the release of the American hostage, Aaron Alexander, is a step in good faith to end this war. Do you expect any progress or perhaps announcement on ceasefire during your trip to the Middle East?
We hope that we're going to have other hostages released too, as you know. So when I met with the hostages 3 weeks ago that were there for quite a while, you remember the 10 people that came in, mostly young people, 1 or 2 were a little bit older. They were explaining the trials and tribulations. I mean, they went through hell. And I said, how many are there? They said 59. I said, that's a lot. I didn't realize, because we got a lot out. We got a lot of hostages out, I think you will acknowledge. They said 59, but then they said, they followed that up by saying 59, of which 24 are living, the rest are dead. But the people whose son, mostly son, I think 1 daughter in this case, but mostly sons are there, or husbands, are there. Those people want the dead bodies as much as they want the live body. I have a mother that calls me, but came up to me when I first met her, and she said, "Sir, please, please get my son out. He's dead, but they have his body." And I asked her about that, and it's as though he were alive. The level of wanting that body back is the same. It couldn't be any more, as though he were alive. So, getting the bodies back is very important. That could be a thing having to do with the religion. It could be same. I was amazed at the level of importance. It's the same as if the son or husband or whatever was alive. So they said 59. In fact, they came in with a number 59 written out on like a sign on their chest. They came to thank me for getting them out. And I said, "What does the 59 mean?" They said, "Well, that means there are 59 people." But then they said, "But 24 are living." Now it's 21. The number's 21. So now it's actually, we'll get Etan today. We think we're getting him today. So it's 20. So they have 20 live hostages there. The rest are dead bodies.
Mr. President, are you open to negotiating your tariffs on cars, steel, and aluminum with China or any other country?
Well, we're not even talking about that. We're bringing the car business back into this country. We have commitments, not only commitments, they've already started construction on many plants. They've left Mexico in a few cases. In a few cases, they've left Canada. They're not going to build in Canada. They're going to build here because we have the market, and the tariffs have been amazing. The election and the tariffs. November 5th was a big day, and on top of that, of course, you wouldn't have the tariffs without the election, I guess, if you look at it. But we have at least 11 committed massive car factories that are going to be built, that are in the process of being built. And some are going through, some have actually started. We also have renovations of existing factories where they weren't utilizing the full factory from years gone by. And now they're under full renovation. They'll be opening up full factories in a very short period of time. Our car industries, I think we're going to have the number one industry. If you look at Japan and these others, they do tremendously with cars, and they can do that too. If they want to sell cars in the United States, they're going to have to build factories in the United States, because I'm interested in cars for the United States. Now, one other thing is, in our tax bill, we're giving not only no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, but also we're going to get a deduction for people that borrow money to buy a car if it's made in America. If it's not, we have no interest.
A meeting between President Putin as well as President Zelensky. If President Putin doesn't show up to these talks in person in Turkey, will you join Europe in putting higher sanctions on Russia?
If I felt it would be important toward getting the deal done, I'm the one that insisted on the meeting. They couldn't get a meeting because one said ceasefire, one said no ceasefire. It was going back and forth. I said, look, at this point, we got to stop it. Just go to the meeting. The meeting's been set. Go to the meeting on Thursday. And if I thought it would be helpful, I don't know where I'm going to be at that particular point. I'll be someplace in the Middle East, but I would fly there if I thought it would be helpful. Yeah, please.
Back to refugees. I want to ask you about South African refugees. Dozens of Afrikaners who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States,
Right.
where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here. Yeah.
Please.
Mr. President, thank you. Are you letting China off the hook for these 90 days, and do you really believe that they will follow through with non-tariff barriers and remove those?
Non-monetary tariffs, yeah. Yeah, I think they're going to follow through. I think they want it very badly. I think they want the deal very badly. Again, this doesn't include the steel tariffs that I put on a long time ago that Biden tried to get off, but he couldn't get them off because it was too much money. You know, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, what a lot of people don't know, but we put on the tariffs originally. And if I didn't do that, we wouldn't have a steel industry today. Now we have a thriving steel industry. It'll be thriving much more with what we're doing because this is the next level. But it doesn't include that, doesn't include cars, doesn't include pharmaceuticals when we do that. And the reason we're doing that will be to get them to come back into the country. You know, there are, again, I always say it because a lot of people forget, but if a company like Eli Lilly, which is making a massive investment in the United States right now. They're building many, many plants. They've already started like 7 of them, many plants, but they are not going to be tariffed. There's no tariff cost. So they're all doing that. They're all coming back to the United States. I mean, I'll tell you what, I hope I get the benefit of watching this because as president, because, you know, it takes a little while to do this stuff. And we're doing it early in the administration. If you think of it, we have, I believe, if you look at the real total, it's over $10 trillion committed for plants and factories. Other administrations haven't had $1 trillion over a 4-year period, even over an 8-year period. We have over $10 trillion committed in one form or the other over 2 months. Give me a break. I'm here to hear 3, but let's give me a break on the first month. We want to get acclimated. But, you know, but if you think about it, it's really 2 months. And so in 2 months, we have an investment already of over $10 trillion. And other presidents haven't had that done over a year, over 4 years in some cases. It's unprecedented. There's never been anything like it. It's a very exciting time in America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Mr. President, are you ready to impose sanctions on Russia if Putin doesn't agree with the 30-day ceasefire?
I have a feeling they're going to agree. I do. I have a feeling.
And we think other countries,
Let's see what happens.
no European countries involved, Mr. President, in the negotiations.
The budget bill negotiations are taking place. Who in your administration is in charge of that while you're gone?
Well, everybody. Bobby, from the standpoint of medical, this group behind me, I mean, I think it's the best group ever assembled. In terms of medical, I think you're going to see a tremendous cut. I don't think, I mean, I know you're going to see it in Medicaid and Medicare. That cut will be massive because drugs are 50-60% of the cost. So Medicaid costs are going down and Medicare costs are going down because of what we're doing today. And there's no, it's not like, oh, gee, well, maybe it won't happen. It's going to happen because the other countries have no choice. Now, the drug companies are going to have to say, listen, if you don't pay more, we're not going to give you the drug. And they're willing to do that. So that's it. They have to, we have to equalize.
Mr. President, what is Mr. price controls?
Say it.
How do you respond to the fact that this?
It's not price control. No. What was price control is before. If you want to talk about price control is what they were doing. They were making us pay. They set a price and they said, here's what we're going to pay. And anything else, charge America. Because at that time, they had a very stupid president. And it really went crazy during the last 4 years. And remember this, the Democrats are the ones that allowed this to happen. They were the ones that were the protector of this pricing system. And I think it's going to be very hard. You'll have to ask Democrats, are they going to vote against the one great, big, beautiful deal that's being negotiated now, tax cuts, etc., when now on top of the tax cuts and regulation cuts, all the things, now you're going to say that the price of your medicine is going down by 60, 70, 80%. You're going to vote against it? I think a lot of Democrats are going to be forced to do something that their leaders are going to beg them not to do, and that's vote for the bill. I don't see how they can vote against it How can they vote against it when drugs and pharmaceuticals are going to be down 70, 80%? It's going to be very interesting.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
Your ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
Only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. Then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not received anything?
It's not a gift to me. It's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster. Here is the bill. Bobby, come on over here. Now you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, quick question about Turkey.
Thank you very much.
Oh man, that was Trump cooked. We have to, I mean, I don't know, where do you even begin? Trump saying tippy top. President Trump talking about the fat pill. Where do you even begin? Donald Trump as the equalizer, new memes being deployed across the internet. Let's do some top line here and just add President Trump to Mount Rushmore, will you? Can we just do it here for the 47,000 watching right now on our YouTube chat? Tens of thousands of others watching across all platforms, but 47,000 for the 47th president. That's the prophecy. And now the prophecy has been fulfilled. Ladies and gentlemen, look at how nicely President Trump would fit up there. You even have, if you look at Mount Rushmore, you can even see there's like a swoop in the rock. That would be perfect for the hair. They call it the swoop. You can swoop it. Donald Trump. Force of nature. 90 straight minutes. Trump just like rip roaring. President Trump exposing that it is Americans who pay 70% of the pharmaceutical costs in the world. That it is Americans getting scammed right now. And that Americans are paying 100% of socialized healthcare systems across Europe for these filthy socialists and communists across Europe. And he's putting an end to it. President Trump starting off the top rope. Obviously, I think the fat pill stuff is really funny. Donald Trump calling himself the equalizer is worth a meme. We did put up the meme during the live. Ladies and gentlemen, here's President Trump with sort of the top line. In this, yeah, come on. Yeah, one more time, Klein. One more time. This is a little too fast. It's a work of beauty. No other news show will live meme Donald Trump and put it up, and that's why we love you. We love the chat, and we thank you, especially to our super chatters and our members. We do live in the chat along with you, and ladies and gentlemen, this was the highest peak watched moment right here. Here we go. This one, we're starting at the top. There we go. Oh, did we not load these?
It means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany, in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. And I see that. I see that with trade, too. European Union is in many ways nastier than China. Okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot. You watch. We have all the cards. They treated us very unfairly. They sell us 13 million cars. We sell them none. They sell us their Agricultural products, we sell them virtually none. They don't take our products. That gives us all the cards, and very unfair. So they're going to have to pay more for health care, and we're going to have to pay less. That's all it is. And believe.
This is what President Trump was talking about today, and I quote President Trump here, starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize healthcare of foreign nations. We will not tolerate profiteering and price gouging from big pharma. So what happens in the scenario that President Trump and then this incredible failings of very smart people who were beside him today, the heads of the FDA, the HHS, the CDC, all there beside President Trump, they're all saying, listen, what goes on is that the American consumer pays for the glut of socialized, government-run, single-payer healthcare all throughout the communist, socialist, and Marxist world. We do this through them ripping off our nation, and that ends today. Here's Donald Trump with that from the top rope.
But starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care. Countries where they paid a small fraction of what, for the same drug, that what we pay many, many times more for. And we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma. But again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing, but they've gotten away with it, these countries. European Union has been brutal. And the drug companies actually told me stories. It was just brutal how they forced them. And European Union suing all our companies, Apple, Google, Meta. They're suing all of our companies. They end up, they have judges that are European Union-centric, and they get rewarded $15 billion, $17 billion, $20 billion, and they use that to run their operation. Not going to happen any longer, that I can tell you.
Daddy is home. The belt is off. And spankings will commence very soon as President Trump goes nation by nation in Europe and explains through RFK Jr. here that just 4.2% of the country, 4.2% of the global population, thank you, pays for 75% of revenues from pharmaceutical companies. Now, why would that be? How is that even possible? It's not. RFK, just a perfect messenger on this topic. He's been talking about it for a very long time, but ripping the guts out here with the data in a way that only RFK can do.
Never been a president more willing to stand up to the oligarchs than President Donald Trump. And I'm very, very proud of you, Mr. President, for your courage, I'll say, because I don't want to be crude, your intestinal fortitude, your stiff spine, and your willingness to stand up for the American people. We have 4.2% of the world's population. Our country represents 75% of the revenues for pharmaceutical companies. We spend in our country $1,126 per capita on drugs. In Britain, they spend about $240. They spend 1/5 of what we do. And this is true across Europe. And the drug companies, Europeans, if you ask them, it made no sense what they were saying. America has to pay for this innovation or it's not going to happen. What President Trump is saying to our European partners is you've got to raise the amount that you're paying for those drugs and pay for your share of the innovation. That the United States is no longer subsidizing that. If the Europeans raise the price of their drugs by just 20%, that is $10 trillion. That can be spent on innovation, and the health of all people all across the globe is going to increase because we're going to have better products.
Boom. What a remarkable phalanx of very smart and accomplished people, molecular biologists, people who have truly done this, not just like agency heads and bureaucratic apparatchiks, but people who've actually done this job in real life, real doctors who are there. Yeah, and I get that it's Dr. Oz, but I'm sitting there watching Dr. Oz being like, I'm glad the guy was in TV because these are tough things to explain, and he's explaining them beautifully. You need to like have a little bit of gravitas to be able to bring these messages out because these are tough topics to work through, and President Trump just like handling them like the man. And that's what this is what RFK. We don't have time to play the clip. We're going to jump very quickly to our next subject here. But this is what RFK had to say to Donald Trump. We have a president who's a man of his word, who has the courage, who can't be bought, unlike most of the politicians in this country. And then he calls out Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Robert Reich to their faces and say that they actually represent the oligarchs. And this is what Robert Kennedy did in his confirmation hearing. It was a masterclass because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders were the number one recipients of pharmaceutical dollars in the Senate. Something that, of course, is a very black spot for both of them. All right, one final thing that we have to get to, the way that Donald Trump started off this 90 minutes tour de force is to say that he has friends who get the fat shot. Well, what is the fat shot? Donald Trump just, I mean, he's a comedian, right? It's just a comedian. And here we go.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
All right. You can actually hear everybody next to Trump be like, you can hear RFK burst into laughter. We were at UFC a couple of weeks ago, and RFK was there. Man, that guy's funny. He's hysterical. RFK is a good old-fashioned time. So this was President Trump changing the world before he goes out and, again, changes the world. President Trump is heading directly to the UAE. He's going to be in Dubai. He's going to be in Saudi Arabia. He's going to crisscross the Mideast. And Donald Trump he's saying, pay attention to what I do in Istanbul. So what's going on? We're going to see. We're going to lock in for as much as we possibly can on this program. We love being live for these things, and we love being your front seat to the golden era. Please become a member today. If you love this chat, if you love what we're doing, you can pop in. You can become a member. You can join the Benny Brigade, or you can sign up in various chats that give you the opportunity to use custom emojis and so on. But we have a rip-roaring good time here, and we're just so very, very thankful for the chat. We probably put, I don't know, Ashley, how many chats did we put up on screen? Probably hundreds, if not thousands, during that romp. It's just why we love you, and we listen to you. And we're going to be, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're going to be unveiling products here for you to literally be chatting with the people who are making these decisions. So imagine we're sitting in RFK's office in HHS. We have a nice big wide shot. It's me, it's RFK. I got like a tablet, and you're chatting, and I'm reading your chats to RFK, and he's responding. This is what we're working on right now. This is the systems that we're working on right now to bring you literally into the halls so that you can be the conversation. That's how much we care about the chat, so how much we care about the channel, how much we care about you. And even I know that everyone roasts my hair every morning, and then I'm constantly getting dragged in the chat. I freaking love it. We just love all of you. Okay, so nothing but hearts. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I needed to go down that road was because this past week we were very much part of the news cycle, mainly because there was a question that we asked based on your curiosity to Jamie Comer. Now, Jamie Comer looked us straight down the barrel. There's the man in charge of government oversight of the Epstein files, government oversight of the FBI, CIA. He's government oversight chairman in the House. He's a very powerful person in the House. It's probably Jamie Comer more than any one man in Congress that Joe Biden isn't president. Well, or at the very least didn't make it to running for president, that Joe Biden was destroyed and that Donald Trump is president now. Jamie Comer and his dogged bulldog investigations led to, of course, the exposing of the Biden crime family. Jamie Comer is the last word when it comes to how the government is operating and what they are trying to hide. So Jamie Comer looks straight down the barrel and goes, we don't have the Epstein files, and they've been destroyed by the FBI. Now, this led to a ping pong ball of a massive news cycle that brought us to Dan Bongino himself finally sounding off on the Epstein files. More to come on that. We're going to get to all that, but I'm going to set up exactly why this is important and where we are now before we get to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's going to join us to talk a little bit about this. Let's go.
I hope James has the Epstein files, because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The President ordered them released. The Attorney General ordered them released. We all know they have not been released. And one of my biggest fears that I had, and I expressed this with Kash Patel and a lot of people, Stephen Miller, and a lot of people going into the new administration, I'm like, I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition. I said, I hope they're not shredding documents, but you all need to go on that first day and try to get all this stuff released, because, my fear is from what I've dealt with in investigations and in communication with this deep state apparatus, is they're probably in there shredding documents as we speak. So hopefully someone has a copy of that. And I hope we find out, because our task force has done everything, led by Anna Paulina Luna.
And again, we'll have members of that task force on with us momentarily as we continue to move this football down the field. And this is what we're proud of here. Because of our interviews and because of our questions, Pam Bondi got asked this question in front of the White House in a little place they call Pebble Beach. This is the place where agency heads and department heads inside of the Trump administration, they do TV hits, and then they get a chance to be peppered with questions, if they so please, outside the White House. And here, Pam Bondi gets a chance to sound off on that. She's asked, well, James Comer said you have no files. Watch.
James Comer said yesterday that all the Epstein files are missing. Can you confirm the status of them? They still haven't heard from you.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
What is this? So what is happening? That's the first time in history that we've seen a federal official acknowledge that they have tens of thousands, that's an exact quote, of videos of powerful people and children that were taken from Epstein. Well, that's brand new. We've never heard that before. I would view that as an absolute overall W. That was followed up by Kash Patel being asked the same thing. Now, we're not trying to brag on we're not trying to brag. We're trying to say that we're trying to be thankful and appreciative of this audience and just say, we love you. We love the chat because it's you who lights the fire. Klein's doing it. It's you who lights the fire. We read the chat. You put the gunpowder in our gut and you say, go ask this, right? And that's what the show is all about. It's literally your ability to ask these questions. We listen and we do it. Now look what it's led to. Now it's led to Kash Patel sounding off about what the files actually are. Let's go.
Person with a brain and a beating heart.
Yes, sir.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Kash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production to the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
So now we have the FBI director, the top law enforcement official in America, the Attorney General of the United States of America, signing off on this and efforting on this based on our questions and the reason why we ask these questions. And I'm aware that there's a lot of horrible things that are happening right now, and I want those children to be saved. The reason why we must rip the guts out of the lies that have been told to us about Jeffrey Epstein is because if they get away with those lies, they'll do it again. The federal government and intel agencies were running an op. They didn't care how many children were hurt in that op. They needed power and leverage over presidents and royal family and Hollywood, musicians, prime ministers, and so on. Jeffrey Epstein was groomed by one of the original founders of the CIA in the Dalton School, where he was hired without any pedigree at all by Bill Barr's father. Bill Barr's father, whose son, of course, oversaw Jeffrey Epstein's murder in that cell. Members of Congress has told us he was murdered by a foreign power. The connections to Mossad, the connections to Israel, the connections to our intelligence agencies, including but not limited to FBI bulletins saying that Epstein belongs to Intel, let him go, let him free, after child predation charges in Palm Beach, Donald Trump being the only man who actually testified and helped the lawyer, kicked Epstein out of his club, and then helped the prosecution to put Epstein down. What will we see here revealed? Why did the federal government only charge Jeffrey Epstein and not anybody on his client list? Where the hell is all the rest of the documentation? As we've shown you a million times, the federal government is lying to you. We have the photos to prove it. We have photos from the FBI from inside of Jeffrey Epstein's Midtown Manhattan mansion. It's a $50 million mansion where various world leaders like Ehud Barak, Bill Gates had a dalliance with a young Russian bridge player here named Maria Antonova. This led to the destruction of his marriage. We have the receipts. It's all available. It's all public information. You can get these photos too. In that little manila bag, there is a bag full of passports and diamonds. According to the FBI, that's what was in there. A bag of diamonds and passports. Well, I wonder which country would be giving Jeffrey Epstein free passports and bags of diamonds. How to get that exactly? I think that's materially important. What about these cases of CDs? What about those hard drives up there? What about all the videotapes? Those CDs are marked nudes. That's what's written on them in Sharpie in Jeffrey Epstein's hand. Here's a box of hard drives from a video surveillance system that have been wrapped in yellow evidence tape. The government has all of this. Why would Jeffrey Epstein wrap hard drives in evidence tape? What is on those? Well, maybe that's what the FBI is going through. And now, ladies and gentlemen, because of the iron spine that you give us, and because of the incessant questioning that we have on this issue, because if you are to rip out the guts and heart of the deep state, it would be exposing them for being willing to run operations like this. In order to get intelligence and leverage, you'd be able to really get at the heart of darkness. Oh, Donald Trump, he's accepting a plane. Well, I wonder what was Bill Clinton accepting in this photo? Donald Trump's getting a big plane for free. All right. Well, first off, have you ever been to a presidential library? Go to any presidential library. There's probably one near you. You can go through and you can walk through the halls of treasures. Each presidential library has one. These are massive gifts that are given by heads of state to the presidents. They don't get to keep them or profit off them, but you can display them at your library. Presidential libraries have massive golden swords and jewels and rubies and crowns in them that are gifts from foreign nations. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Republican, Democrat. And so this is I'm trying to figure out what is the limiting principle here? This is how it's always worked. Now, my question is, what gift was Bill Clinton being given in this one of Jeffrey Epstein's 21 trips to the White House? Somebody explain that to me? What's going on here? Jeffrey Epstein allegedly slept in the Lincoln bedroom, vacationed in the private cottage of the Queen. Dan Bongino finally sounding off on all of this. It makes us very happy about it. Obviously, Dan Bongino is no spring chicken, but he's somebody who, because he's serving in a public capacity now, has had to keep quiet, as he details here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I find this to be a massive win for us and our movement of truth, all right? And more importantly, our movement of parents wishing to protect children from our monstrous government. I'd like to update you on some things that we're going to do well and we can do better. The workforce, and this is directly from Dan Bongino, to 648,000 followers in his official FBI account. By the way, this is the most viral tweet, I think, from any account over the weekend. It has 28,000 reposts, 117,000 likes, 12,000 comments. So this thing is an absolute monster. The workforce has been working overtime in task force operations to remove dangerous illegal aliens from the country. I think we can all agree that that should be priority number one. Release the dangerous criminal aliens. They have to do that in conjunction with the FBI. The message is clear. If you come here illegally and prey on our citizens, your days are numbered. These removal and incarceration operations will dramatically change the crime landscape in the country. Good. Crimes against children are the priority of the workforce. Restoring justice, we locked up nearly 1,000 child predators last week alone. That's good. We're going to take your freedom if you take away a child's innocence. Good. Great. Think twice before you target children. Does this mean the Epstein list? Is this mean the Epstein list next? Please. Okay, here we go. We're clearing information to Congress and public. This is where we really get to the meat and potatoes here. We're clearing information to Congress, public, as quickly as possible. Klein, if you wouldn't mind highlighting, please, sir. Yes, because this is quite the information that Bongino drops right here. In just a couple of months since we've sworn in and responded to a request for information on the attack of Representative Steve Scalise, which we had on Congress members last week to talk about this. This was the attack by left-wing, radicalized by MSNBC sociopath named James T. Hodgkinson. He shot up, he premeditated and planned a killing of a bunch of Republicans who were playing baseball, and the FBI covered it up. Makes you wonder, what other assassination attempts are they covering up? Members of Congress, the Nashville attack. This is obviously the transgender attack in Nashville on a Christian school, which is a hate crime and should be charged as a hate crime. And they should probably lock up the attacker's parents, and would be my recommendation, because they knew that something bad was going to happen. Crossfire Hurricane. This is spying on President Trump. And then the locking up of President Trump's top administration officials, like General Flynn, friend of the show, and the COVID cover-up and more. Here we go. We are working with the DOJ on the Epstein case, and as the Attorney General stated, there are voluminous amounts of downloaded child sexual abuse material that we are dealing with. Now, this is what I find interesting. I'm not interested in Jeffrey Epstein's filthy porn stash, okay? That's not what anybody wants here, and nobody wants to see anything released. Nobody, listen, we're not sickos, okay? We don't even need to see any, I'm not asking to see videos or anything like that. If you have a still frame of Bill Clinton on Jeffrey Epstein's island, that's important to me. Please release that, right? But nobody's asking to put salt in the wound and to hurt these young women more. If you go read the book or watch the documentaries on Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, he was cruising trailer parks to take advantage of already broken and impoverished young women. He's a filth, scum of the earth, the true heart of darkness. Nobody needs for these young women's lives to be ruined anymore. And then, of course, as we found out last week, Virginia Roberts was also wound up, let's just say wound up dead, because her father says it's not a suicide. Her lawyer says it's not a suicide. Some members of her family who remain unnamed say it's a suicide. We've seen no evidence at all that it was a suicide. Virginia Roberts says she wasn't suicidal. So it does seem to me, cui bono, who benefits? Well, the people that want to get rid of the Epstein evidence benefit, right? And she's a living piece of evidence. Anyway, let's continue with what Bongino says. He says there's voluminous amounts of child abuse in the material that he's dealing with. Is that originating from Jeffrey Epstein's properties? Is this evidence that the federal government has been hiding? Because what this does say is that the federal government has incriminating evidence of abuse and has been protecting the abusers. Well, that's a big no-no. Who's in these tapes? And that's what I think the really rational, easy thing to call for here is not to have this sick material released and to hurt the victims even more. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm saying release the list of the names of the bankers, Hollywood executives, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton. Release the names of the people that we know are known Epstein associates that exist in this material. Get that information out there so that at the very least, they can hang their head in a bag in shame publicly, and at the hopefully most, they can be charged for these crimes. Diddy style. Yes? Thank you. That's what we're asking for. There are also victim statements that are entitled to specific protections. Fine. We need to do this correctly and understand the public's desire to get the information out there. So there he is explaining. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing our best in the current budgetary environment to prioritize this mission, act as good fiscal stewards, find waste and inefficiencies, and enact the reforms in the FBI moving forward. So this is, again, Bongino and the FBI, along with Kash Patel, the DOJ, Pam Bondi, finally like giving up the ghost and saying, yeah, we have all this material. The government's been hiding it from you. Remember how far we've come in just a couple months. In a couple months, we had a binder that had already public information in it. That's just like a bunch of flight logs from Jeffrey Epstein. That public information was redacted and was, handed out of the White House. That we were told that was all the Epstein information. That's it. That's what we were told. And that's what Pam Bondi was told. And that's what Kash Patel was told. So why are they having to claw all this? Where are they clawing all this out? There's so much going on here underneath the surface. Why are they having to claw all this out? Who was hiding it? What were they hiding? These are the real questions here. Okay? And let's jump down into his final jawbreaker here. All right. I have no desire to sugarcoat this one. It's been difficult in this new role to stay relatively quiet while certain elements of the media continue to entirely fabricate stories about what we're doing at the FBI. Part of the job of public servant, I don't work for myself anymore. I work for the public. While I can't address all the nonsense in one post, I'll address one repeated attack on Director Patel. The director's office is attached to mine. I am in most of the briefings that he's in. He spends anywhere between 10 to 12 hours in the office attending meetings with everyone from heads of law enforcement to counterterrorism teams and more. Any assertion otherwise is a verifiable lie designed to stop reforms and fracture your trust. I will die on this hill. You are being clearly lied to by people with an agenda, and it's not your agenda. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Bongino attacking head-on, breaking the glass jaw of a fake story last week that was published in some left-wing rag. I can't remember which one it was. That Kash Patel isn't doing any work, He's not doing anything. He's just out partying. It's complete and total bull. Thank you for allowing me to communicate with you on this channel. Other things are happening as well. They'll be evident in the coming weeks and months. Keep watching us and holding us accountable. God bless America and those who defend her. Definitely the most viral post from a government official this past week. And we all had a part of it. We stand with Dan Bongino. We stand with Kash Patel. We stand with President Trump and his selections for law enforcement. And we believe and know that they are going to do the right thing here. This is something that needs to be done right. And as we often liken it to, we're not trying to build a synthetic fake house here. We're trying to build a real house. It's trying to be a structure that's that actually lasts and withstands the test of time. It can't be done away with. It can't be deleted. And so we'll see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, just wanting to effort out there what we believe and how valuable this audience has been in bringing forward the story. One final thing, ladies and gentlemen, our archivists and researchers at this program have gone back into the annals of history, found something very unique about what Kash Patel said about Russiagate on Tucker Carlson's show. We're talking about a years-old clip here, but if you want to see direct insight into what Kash Patel wishes to release about the Mar-a-Lago raid and about what they did to President Trump in the first term, here's your crystal ball.
Well, the current FBI director, Chris Wray, was the FBI director when we ran the Russiagate investigation, and he had the opportunity then to expose all the corruption at the FBI, and he failed, and he's been covering up since. Look, we said since the beginning, we got out 60% of the documents for the Russiagate investigation. 40% remain. President Trump declassified those specific documents, and this entire raid on his house, I believe, was to prevent the disclosure now that the government gangsters are back in charge of their corrupt activities from Russiagate on down, because now that they have an open FBI counterintelligence investigation, they will shield any release of documents because they will say we have an open investigation. Congress has a lot of work to do, and I'm glad whistleblowers are coming forward. They need to be doing so in droves.
So the raid on Mar-a-Lago was to prevent Russiagate documents, or to go and recapture Russiagate documents. Well, I mean, he's the FBI director now, so I guess he would know. Kash Patel has, I mean, we know this as a matter of fact. There's a reasonable chance that we are going to be doing some real, let's just call it inside work with the FBI soon. We're working on a couple of projects. There are some neat things that are going on. We want to bring them to you, right? We don't just want to we want to trust but also verify. It's part of our job is to actually bring you there. And so we're working on that. A lot of stuff moving right now. It's a very exciting time. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that Kash Patel is working probably 10 to 12 hours a day, all through the weekends. We know this because, we get outreach from his office late in the night on the weekend. Maybe he is drinking blackout coffee. I don't know. Maybe. We don't know. We're not sure. We know that's what we drink. What's in this completely empty mug? It is my second one of these this morning. Okay, don't try it if you're not addicted to caffeine. You don't have to do a whole pot of coffee every morning, but that's what we're up to. We want to rock and roll, and we do it with our friends at Blackout. Blackout Coffee is the hard work American dream coffee brand that is filled with grit and no grift. They are an all-American company. This is all-American coffee. I drink my coffee black. It is delicious coffee, but more importantly, this is the coffee company that doesn't cut corners and supports you, supports your values in this country. There are a lot of people who go out of ease to Marxist coffee companies and to socialist coffee companies out of Seattle, and you shouldn't. Frankly, caffeine is something that I need every single day, and it's something that you should make the switch today and ensure that you are supporting people who support you and this country. If you believe in hard work, American values, and coffee that actually tastes like coffee, go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 20% off your first order. Support the American dream. Drink Blackout. blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. All right. Here we go. What's up? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, my producer is telling me that Marjorie Taylor Greene was at the airport and she had a major technical glitch with her camera. And she was going to join us while she's traveling. But she will have her studio. She will be in the studio tomorrow. And so she'll be joining us tomorrow. That's a crying shame. I was looking forward to her on this topic. But ladies and gentlemen, that's okay. We have Wesley Hunt as well. Let me know when we're locked and loaded for that. So we apologize. That's just what happens when you're in the middle of a live show. Sometimes you just can't make it work. Guys, you should. Yeah, that's a real shame there. It's really too bad because we needed to have Marjorie Taylor Greene on this topic. See if you can just get her to call in. Just get her to call into the show, all right? Because we need MTG on this topic. Just have her call in. Just have her get on the phone. We just pop her up, okay? Yeah, just do that. Just get her on the phone. All right. Well, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. The great Wesley Hunt. Let me know, guys. Yeah, let me know. Okay. All right. This is a very interesting little piece of news as we await the congressman from Texas. DHS says that they are planning on arresting members of Congress who behaved like absolute animals this last weekend. So it was on Friday at an ICE facility in New Jersey. Now, we got DHS to send us proprietary video of body cam footage of what was actually happening at this storming of an ICE facility. And this is patently illegal. We are awaiting Speaker Johnson to say something about this. I have a feeling that Congressman Wesley Hunt will have something to say, but here's what was sent to us by DHS. What you're going to see here, this is the mayor of New Jersey, mayor of Newark, New Jersey. That's fine. He gets arrested. I want you to watch the woman in the red and the way that she behaves. This is a Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. Let's go ahead and see the best that New Jersey has to offer here, members of Congress. There she is. Look at there. Look there. Yeah, there you go. There's a break. Let's break that down. There you can see her. You can see her punching and hitting, and punching and hitting, and pushing and resisting arrest. Please grab my post on this, guys. Please grab the post. Thank you. This is despicable actions by a member of Congress. These are federal agents here. This can be prosecuted quite easily. 18 U.S. Code 111. It carries very heavy fines and mandatory minimums for prison sentencing. This is far worse than you saw many January 6th defendants get thrown in solitary confinement for years for. All right, let's continue watching the video. This is, again, sent to us by DHS. Again, our show and this program doing the very heavy lifting here in the case of LaMonica McIver. Here we go. In the red, look at her push, punch, hit, bull rush, and elbow through a bunch of federal agents. By the way, this is happening while she's storming an ICE facility. You know, if you flip the tables here, and if you say, oh, this is a Republican. I hate doing this game because it's so stupid. But if this were a Republican member of Congress trying to bull rush into, I don't know, like an abortion clinic, I don't know, like attacking police officers, cursing at police officers, saying that, and I quote, "You will put hands on federal agents. I will touch whoever I want, mother effer," says Rep. McIver, and then threatens to destroy the ICE officer's career. "You will pay," before descending into a profanity-laced rampage tirade. Yeah, I'd be all for that member of Congress, that Republican. I'd be all for that Republican getting thrown out of Congress. Do it. Get rid of them. We don't need those kind of people representing us. This has become, the modern Democrat Party is indistinguishable from Antifa. They have the same tactics. These are elected members of Congress. Here you can have like a larger, that's a larger, like broader view of her punching and hitting, lashing out. I've reached out to Speaker Johnson's office. What should become of members of Congress like this? Clearly, this is illegal. And clearly, what needs to happen next is there needs to be arrests. Now, our friend, DHS spokesperson, has said that there will be more arrests. I think she said it on air, ALX. But at the very least, spokespeople for the Department of Homeland Security said that there will be more investigations and arrests. If you assault law enforcement officers, you will answer to the law. Well, here's the law. You please put up 18 U.S. Code 111. It was right there in the last tweet. You just clicked through a tweet. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees shall, when in the acts of violation, this section constitute one simple assault and be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than a year. Such acts involve physical contact, well, then 8 years. If it involves weapons, then 20 years. Millions of dollars in fines. I thought this was the party of like no one is above the law. I guess we'll find out. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me right now is a spectacular member of Congress, somebody who's a favorite of our show, somebody who we miss when he's not been on the program for a couple of weeks, and that is the great Wesley Hunt of Texas. Let's go. Congressman, you are on the House Judiciary Committee. Some of the members of Congress from Texas, Jasmine Crockett, but also from New Jersey, have not been behaving very judiciously. What should happen to LaMonica McIver of Newark? Sorry, producers, we're muted here. We apologize. We just need to unmute. There we are.
How do you hear me now, brother?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, so basically this behavior that we have seen from LaMonica. LaMonica needs to go to la jail like yesterday. And the Democrat Party is completely broken. And this kind of behavior is despicable. You would think that these people would look at what happened during January 6th, that nobody is above the law, as you so eloquently put it, and that President Trump belongs in prison and the insurrection and all these things after January 6th. And yet they then turn around and then behave like this. And they've been behaving like this for the past few months. Now, here's what's crazy about this, brother. We all know what happened. President Trump has broken these people. Trump derangement syndrome is real. They don't know what to do. And the country is following suit with what President Trump promised the country that he was going to do, that he was going to deliver on. So in a week like this, we had so many victories, so many dubs. Like they are now to the point to where they have to throw so much stuff against the wall to see what sticks that they're lost. They can only result to violence. This is the definition of Trump derangement syndrome. These people do not know how to wake up in the morning and put on pants and put on shoes and go to work and do the right thing and work for their party. They have got to lash out because they have no leader. They are rudderless. They have no direction. Who are they going to call if they need someone to lead this party? Is it going to be LaMonica? Is it going to be Jazz? Is it going to be Bernie Sanders? Is it going to be AOC? So now what do? You attack law enforcement officers. Great idea. You know what? I hope they continue to do this for the next year and a half, because while we continue to work for the American public and work for the average American in this country, I want Democrats to expose themselves for who they are, the real insurrectionists.
Congressman, the chat is like cheering for you right now. Such a breath of fresh air to hear somebody just say it. Listen, if you punch or hit a cop, you go to jail. That's just the reality of it. I don't care if you're wearing black block or a red hat. Yes. That's the way it should work. Yes. And if you're a member of Congress, even more so, because you should damn well know better. Now, where the hell is the rest of the Republican congressional leadership on this? You'd assume that this would be such a cut and dry situation. We protect our cops. We defend our men and women in uniform. We defend our federal agents. There's clear statutes that have been written into U.S. code that you're not allowed to do this. It's patently illegal. Well, so where's the rest of the Republican Party on this?
This is also relatively new. This is also relatively breaking news. We're going to be in session, back in session tomorrow. So I'm sure this is going to be discussed. But I also want to say something just where our party stands when it comes to police and law enforcement officers. You know, coming up here, we're having Police Week up in D.C. And I'm here to tell you that I want to thank God for every single law enforcement officer that keeps us safe. under no circumstances should a member of U.S. Congress ever place their hands on anybody that risked their lives to keep us safe. One quick story for you, brother. This is the best thing I've ever heard from a spouse of a law enforcement officer. She said, "The sound of Velcro when my husband comes home is what I look forward to every single day. Because if I'm hearing the sound of Velcro, that means he's taken off his bulletproof vest and he's still alive." So we have congressmen and women attacking people that stand on a wall for us. It's ridiculous. She should absolutely be expelled from Congress, and she should get the exact same punishment that they would have given a Republican if we behaved that way. Imagine if Congressman Wesley Hunt behaved this way. Now, I would never do that because as a military man myself, I have far too much respect for these people. But imagine if I behaved this way. I'd be gone just like that. The double standard here is nauseating, and we know it. But again, I kind of don't want to kick her out, brother, because I want America to keep seeing this clown show, because I want America to know this is the Democrat Party today. You do not want these people in charge ever again. So while on one hand, she absolutely has to go, and on principle, and I will stand on principle, she should go. At the end of the day, this is to the testament of the Democrat Party and where they are today.
So yeah, I just wanted to maybe draw a line in the sand and saying this isn't one moment in history. This has been a massive pattern for Democrats, specifically on the radical side. We have Jamal Bowman here pulling the fire alarm. By the way, this is something that could take resources away from a real fire. This is something that can cause damage or injury to members of the fire department. Yeah. This is something that could really get people hurt. This is something that, again, is patently illegal, and you never see any action. And so at some point, you have to sort of throw the gauntlet down. Now, he's not in Congress anymore, but you have to throw the gauntlet down and say, no, like, Republicans are in charge. They should do something. And George Santos was, like, voted out of Congress for doing far less than attacking, physically hitting and punching an ICE agent and a cop, and then telling them that you'll lay hands on them, mother effer, right, if you want to. This is what she says in the video. So, at some point, you got to draw the line and make examples of people. And I think that this is a good hill to die on.
I don't disagree with you, brother, but I will also say some of my favorite words in the history of the world are "we the people." And the reason why I said it is because we the people voted out Jamal Bowman, because even though he was a liberal hack from a very liberal district, that behavior that was exposed was ridiculous. And we the people of this district voted him out. I want people to continue to see this kind of behavior so we, the people, can continue to vote out Democrats. Now, I'm using that as an analogy to a certain extent too, brother, because again, what she did deserves expulsion immediately from the House of Representatives. But really, I'm talking more to a broader idea here as to how we view America, how we view law enforcement officers. We, the people, made a decision back in November to rid us of these vermin at the end of the day. This is ridiculous. So guess what we need to do? Continue to expose them so we, the people, can have the opportunity in the midterms to vote Republicans back into office to continue President Trump's agenda. We, the people, have an opportunity in 2028 to vote for another Republican president. We, the people, have the opportunity to stop this from happening and to back law enforcement officers. So again, let's continue to expose this. We in the halls of Congress need to have a very serious conversation about what our conduct should be and what should be acceptable of a United States congressman and woman. But at the end of the day, we, the people, decide. If we don't do our job, and I pray to God that we do, but if we don't, vote her out.
Okay, so this is very interesting. I didn't know that it was Police Week. You yourself are a military man, and you know what it's like to put on the uniform.
Coming up next week.
Next week. Okay, so on the heels here of Police Week, you are saying, Congressman, that you are in favor of expulsion of a member of Congress who assaulted federal agents on camera. You are in favor of this?
Yes. Next question.
Yes. Okay. How does that this is why you're an absolute favorite of the show, Congressman, because they just there's no Dr. Seuss, reading Dr. Seuss backwards with you is like, here we go.
I'll tell you something, brother, I hold myself to that standard. You see, if I behave that way, I would fire myself. I would quit, because clearly I don't have the temperament to do this job. So again, this is not a double standard here. I would never behave that way. Ergo, I get to be in Congress. If you don't behave that way, I will hold you to that same standard. And guess what? You got to go.
What is the process there?
Now, that is an arduous task because, again, it has to be voted on by all members of Congress. We have a 4-seat majority. It had to be brought to the floor, and it would take a lot. And then you would have to say, no, you know what? You know how I would vote, but I can't promise you that every single Republican would vote to expel her for various reasons that they would have to explain. But I can only explain my vote and what I would do. I would certainly vote to have her expelled after what I just saw in that video.
Yeah, I mean, it seems. I mean, this is DHS's footage that they sent proprietary to us.
Correct.
It just seems like very cut and dry.
This is very easy.
Like, it's a very simple. Yeah, it's a very simple vote explanation. Like we don't support members of Congress attacking federal agents. Like that. Oh, duh. Like we stand with the blue, right? So we're just not going to do that.
Oh, wait. Who's we though? Who's we? We, the Republican Party, stands with the blue. Yep. Democrats do not.
Yep. Okay. Well, good. I mean, it's like, again, sometimes it's like shocking clarity from the great Wesley Hunt. Can you preview President Trump? I mean, I'm sure you were watching President Trump announcing his big pharma cuts and then announcing some more big deals that are going to be happening across the Mideast. Now, this is something a place that you are very familiar with. You were deployed there. You risked your life serving your country, flying Apache helicopters in that part of the world. And so what do you expect to see from President Trump this week? What wins do you think are going to be delivered? And he says, pay attention to Istanbul, pay attention to Putin and Zelensky meeting IRL. It's going to be a wild week.
Brother, we had a ceasefire struck between Pakistan and India, the Chinese tariff agreement that they just came to, the European tariff agreement that we just came to this past week. Brother, I can't keep up. This man is a machine, and you're right. He keeps on winning. And, and I think he said a couple of years ago, we're going to win so much, we're going to get tired of winning. Well, I will never tire of winning, but what I will tell you, I don't ever like to put words in President Trump's mouth. His team is very calculated. They know exactly what they're doing. But here's what you can expect. You can expect bold leadership from what I would say is the best president we have seen in generations, maybe ever. And I'm saying that because we know who's in charge. We know who the boss is. And he is now operating in the best interest of the American public. He said, I'm going to put America first. That's exactly what he's doing. But when you have a strong America, the world follows. You have a more peaceful world. You have people realizing that, you know what, maybe if we do it this way, it's going to be better for everyone. Everybody will get a bite at the apple, but President Trump wants us to get the first bite of that apple. And I love the fact that we are now living in a time to where week by week goes by and liberals in the left can't keep up. They're attacking him for something that he did 2 weeks ago, and we've already turned the page and we've already moved on. You know, what's really interesting, we haven't heard anything about stock prices lately or the markets over the course of the past week, haven't we? Especially after a day like today. It's fascinating. It's like President Trump is like Nostradamus. It's like we have to take a pill now. We have to go through chemo now to get rid of the cancer of us getting ripped off over and over again by these horrible tariff deals by the Chinese, and then miraculously this week. Look at that. And then he said last week, if I were you, I'd be buying stocks right now. Buy the dip. I would listen to the man. I think he knows what he's talking about. So again, next week, I think it's going to be another week of winning. It's going to be another week of strong, bold leadership. And when someone calls the White House, the entire world knows who's answering. Be in charge. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. In the words of General Patton, my favorite saying of all time. I say that because we now have a substantive leader that everyone knows who is in charge. And whether you like it or not, whether you have Trump derangement syndrome or not, whether you voted for him or not, he is our president and he is in charge, which is a very stark difference than we've had for the past 4 years under the Biden administration. I look forward to next week, and I tell you, I got an idea. It's going to be filled with fireworks. I can tell you that much, brother.
We got to get our big, beautiful bill. I mean, that's what everyone's talking about in Congress. How close is that to happening? I know you're on a couple of committees that obviously that bill is going to be working through.
I am very confident that this is going to happen. If you keep in mind with the from the 2 to 4 seat majority at any given time, you have guys like me that want to give President Trump some runway to get this done. I never voted for a continuing resolution in my first 2 years of Congress. Many of us have not. But when President Trump called me on the phone and called me into his office to explain to him the plan and what needs to be done, we all got on board. And that goes for me, that goes for Chip Roy, and many others. So let me tell you something. If we've gotten this far, let's finish the game. Let's not fumble inside the one. And I got a very good feeling that going into the next couple of months, the House is going to be in good shape. We're going to get the Senate on board, and President Trump is going to get his big, beautiful bill.
Okay. We'll hold you to it. Do you have any insights into any goodies that are going to be in there? You know, we're gonna make the Doge cuts real. We're gonna lower taxes. Scott Bessent was out this morning saying he can't believe how well the tax bill is coming along.
It is coming along, and again, I can't speak to any kind of specificity at this point. I got to be really careful. But please know that what's going to come forward, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be everything that we want. But we can't let perfection be the enemy of great. And if you can imagine where we would be if we had President Kamala Harris, where the country would be right now, juxtaposed to President Trump's big, beautiful bill that may not be perfect for everyone. But again, it's better than the alternative. This is what I want people to understand. I got you. Things are frustrating. DC, the swamp, it's mesmerizingly horrible at times. We can't get anything done, but President Trump is working for us. This bill is better than any alternative. And let me tell you something, this is happening in record time. I am shocked at how swiftly this is moving through. And I'm confident we're going to get this done here in July at the latest.
Just very quickly, Congressman, because you said Beetlejuice, and we were waiting for a time to play this clip, and you brought it up. You summoned it. We were waiting for a time to play this clip. Many are saying that Kamala Harris has not been sober since November 5th, 2024, and this is the most recent clip of Kamala Harris. I want your take on it, please, sir.
And I was just telling somebody recently who didn't know, we performed Free to Be You and Me. When I sang about my friend William, who was 5 years old and wanted a doll to hug and hold, I could sing the whole thing.
I think you should sing some now.
So has she emerged from the world's largest box of wine to do this?
I gotta correct you on one thing, Vinny. She hasn't been sober since November 2016. Let's go back to the first one. For starters. And then I will say this. I've seen some polling lately, and she is currently the leader for the Democrat primary in 2028. If you can believe that. This is what I mean by rudderless. You're right. She climbed out of a box of wine, the world's largest box of wine, and started talking. Okay, and then something tells me it was like a Chardonnay. I don't know. She strikes us like a Chardonnay kind of chick. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then this is you guys. This is still the leader of their party. Tim Walz is going to South Carolina. This week to speak. These AOC, Bernie Sanders, this is their leadership. The world needs to understand that we dodged a huge bullet by making Donald John Trump our 47th president. Otherwise, this is exactly what we would be dealing with. This is it right here. Can you believe Pete Buttigieg, AOC, Cory Booker, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro. This is their party today. And let me tell you something. The midterms are upon us like next year. And then the election is here, 2028. They are running out of time. They're running out of road very quickly, brother.
Oh, man. Yeah. You say we dodged a bullet. I would say we dodged the world's worst hangover with Kamala Harris. Either way, though, good luck. Good luck. Apparently, she's going to run for governor of California. Okay. I again, it's so entertaining. I'm all full. I love it. It makes for great fodder. It makes for great memes and internet content. Yeah. And we have the Kamala with her Kamala Chardonnay, the Kamala Cabernet Sauvignon back, which is a brand new. You can buy it, I think, on our campaign website.
That's great.
It's funny. It's bad for the country. Okay, so final question, and it's the last time I'm ever going to ask this, but I have to because you're an expert, and because we've talked about it before, and we talked about it right before a massive article dropped. It's about an Apache helicopter crashing in DCA, where you fly into, I assume, probably on a weekly basis. Maybe your wife and kids are with you. Nobody wants DCA to be an unsafe airport. It was horrifying, and it happened just days after President Trump was sworn in. And now the New York Times is up with an article, and this article rocked the world. And I just wanted to get your take on it. It's probably the last time we're ever going to cover it in the show, but because you're an expert on flying Apaches, and because it was an Apache helicopter, I just want to get your take.
It was a Black Hawk.
Oh, forgive me, but it was an Army helicopter then.
Yes, yes.
And at the very least, you've probably flown in those birds, right? And
Multiple times. Yeah.
so the takeaway from the article here is that, according to the New York Times, and in this extensive 5,000-word article, Congressman, that the pilot, she refused to lower the aircraft when she was ordered to do that, and then she refused to turn the aircraft when she was told to do that. And she was ordered these things and then flew, as you can see in the video quite clearly, directly into the side of a commercial airliner. You know, as a military man and as somebody who's piloted these types of Army helicopters, what the hell happened?
So the number one cause of accidents, especially in the military, and really for any airframe, any aircraft of any type, fixed wing, rotary wing, it doesn't really matter, is usually pilot error. It's usually human error. A human makes a mistake that cost the lives of many, and that's just tragic to see that. When I was in the military, every year we would have a safety team travel around the country, and it would compile all the accidents, all the black boxes of all the accidents, and then they would go to every individual unit. Obviously, this is secret information, and they would show what happened. And I would oftentimes see video footage and hearing the conversation of somebody's last breath, somebody's last words before they crashed. But they did that because they wanted to ensure that we didn't make those same mistakes in the future. So what I really want to come out of this is this. I want to have compassion for those that lost their lives. I want to have compassion for the innocent passengers on that flight that lost their lives. But most importantly, Benny, this can't ever happen again. We have got to learn from these mistakes and take human error out of it to the best of our ability. And the way we do that is through proper training. We do that through education, and we do that through making sure that we are constantly vigilant to what can happen whenever you're combating and manning an aircraft like this. So again, I think the article is probably pretty clear what we know as it being human error. But the issue now is, how do we prevent this from ever happening again, and how do we learn from it? That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, was this a DEI situation? Should she have never been behind the stick on that aircraft? This seems like multiple ignored orders.
Yeah,
and they even confirmed with the radio tower, right? We're going to move the aircraft, but it never moved. We're going to move the helicopter, but it never moves. And so it's just,
this is something that we have to absolutely look into, right? And especially the whole DEI issue for me is something that you could imagine. I hate it. I mean, I've been black for a very long time, over 40 years, So, but when I went through flight school, nobody cared back in the early 2000s, back in the Eminem days, like the Dr. Dre Eminem 50 Cent days. Nobody cared at all. We weren't talking about DEI hires. It's that, like, you went to flight school, and then, like, if you couldn't pass, if you weren't a good pilot, then, like, you didn't fly.
Yeah.
That's it. They were like I didn't leave West Point. They were like, we need to have X amount of women, X amount of black people. This many people go fly Apaches. This many people go back. I mean, the fact that John James and I both flew Apaches, were actually in the exact same flight school class and same West Point class. That's purely like coincidental. Okay, like they weren't like, here are two black guys, let's make them Apache pilots. That's not how that happened, right? We are not DEI hires. We worked hard. We got the airframe. We trained and we flew it. End of discussion. We have got to get back to that, because what happens is this: when you see a person of color, when you see a woman flying, I don't want people to look at me and think, oh, that guy must be a DEI hire because they changed qualifications. I want people to look at me and say, that guy's here pre-DEI time, and we didn't pick him because he's black. We picked him because he is what? Qualified. That's all that we want in this country. That's all that we care about. Qualifications. We were there. We've lost our way. It's time to get back to it.
Man, this is very that's a beautiful answer, and it's
you know what? And
it's incredibly unfair. The DEI stuff is incredibly unfair to those who are qualified, because now you get this, like, the suspicion, right? That's like, did somebody who forwarded your resume, right, kind of thing.
And I'm like, bro, don't look at me. I had nothing to do with that. This is a new era thing that happened over the course of the past few years.
That's right.
Like, I came in before that. I don't want people ever looking at me in any job that I have wondering if I should be there or not because of the way I look. And that's what liberals have done. They've weaponized this thing by lowering the qualifications, by not making this a merit-based situation. And then you put black people and you put women in a bad position because not only that, imagine being a person that believes that you only got a job or you only got something based on what was or wasn't between your legs and the way you looked. Think about that. Think about that. Like that is that's a horrible way to live life. I want to live my life based on my acumen and my ability. End of discussion. I got here because I earned it. I became a U.S. congressman because I went to West Point and I fought in combat and I went to Cornell and got a good education. And then I ran for Congress and the people elected me, Wesley Hunt, because of who I am. And even though it's a white majority district, I still won overwhelmingly because, as I said on your show multiple times, I'm being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. We should all want that. I don't want to go back to the way it was before. I want that kind of equality and that kind of thought process for every single red-blooded American, black, white, Indian, Asian. I don't care. I don't care. Are you qualified for the job?
Congressman, I've been texting the guy who actually runs our store here saying, can we get a shirt that says LaMonica can go to La Jail? That's one of the best lines ever spoken on the stream. So
as long as 10% goes to the big guy.
That's right.
That's me.
We're all right. Well, here, let's put up the congressman's social media, and I'm just gonna, because I know the block that we're heading to is gonna be Stephen Miller saying we should suspend the writ of habeas corpus. I just got to get your take on this. You're Mr. Texas. You've talked about immigration.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
Well, again, their thought is it can be suspended in the time of an invasion. And do you call 2 million people entering our country an invasion? Would another country call 2 million people entering their country illegally an invasion? Would you call historic fentanyl deaths of young people in this country for the past 5 years an invasion? Now, look, that's up for them to decide, but an argument certainly can be made.
So that sounds like, as a proud Texan, as somebody who's been so staunch on the border issue, that you're open to it,
brother. I've had mothers, I've had young people, young girls. You and I have girls, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Mother's Day photo. Your family is gorgeous, by the way, brother. But we have beautiful families.
Back at you.
And I have watched young women and mothers weep as their children have been raped and killed. Americans. As you can imagine, I'm an Apache, brother. The sensitive stuff, I don't really care. I am not sensitive at all. I want to protect my fellow Americans and do whatever it takes to do just that, obviously within the confines of the law. But these arguments can be made if you look at what's happened in this country over the course of the past 5 years. President Trump got elected on this very issue. Keeping Americans safe, protecting our sovereign southern border. The number one role of our federal government is to protect our citizens. If you don't do that, then there has to be a price to pay. And so, look, I am not going to advocate one way or the other. What I'm saying is that an argument certainly can be made, and I will leave that up to the White House.
All right. Okay. Well, White House is going full Leroy Jenkins on this one.
Leroy Jenkins.
Let's go. It's actually the 20-year anniversary of that famous World of Warcraft clip. There you go. If you know, you know. God bless you, Congressman. You and your 350,000 followers. Everybody get in there. Fight for the people who are fighting for us. Make sure that Wesley Hunt has the biggest possible audience so we can make the biggest possible impact on the battlefield of the culture and political war. Godspeed, Congressman.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Ooh, man. So this is, is this happening? They gonna do it? Are they gonna do it? Let's pop that up real fast, this article. White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller says President Donald Trump is looking for ways to expand his legal power to deport migrants. To achieve that, he says the administration is actively looking at suspending habeas corpus, the constitutional right for people to legally challenge their detention by the government. Such a move would be aimed at migrants as a part of the Republicans' broader crackdown on the U.S.-Mexico border. The Constitution is clear that the course is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in the time of an invasion, Miller told reporters outside the White House. So I would say that option is something that we are actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. What is habeas corpus? It's a Latin term that means that you have the body. Federal courts use the writ of habeas corpus to bring a prisoner before a neutral judge to determine if his imprisonment is legal. Habeas corpus was included in the Constitution as a import from English common law. Parliament enacted Habeas Corpus Act of 1679, which meant it was ensure the king released prisoners when the law did not justify confining them. The Constitution's suspension clause, the second clause of Article 9, Section 9, Article 1, states that habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless there is a rebellion or an invasion, and public safety must require it. Interestingly, the writ of habeas corpus has been suspended. This has happened before. The United States has suspended habeas corpus under 4 distinct circumstances during history. Those usually involved authorization from Congress, something that would be nearly impossible today, even at Trump's urging, given the narrow Republican majorities. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus multiple times during the Civil War. Congress similarly acted under Ulysses S. Grant, and it was suspended in the Philippines, U.S. territory, and then after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Would you look at that? So, particularly ironic that it is the Lincoln Project trying to dunk on Stephen Miller here for saying that habeas corpus shouldn't be suspended. So literally the avatar is Abraham Lincoln, and he's the last president to unilaterally just suspend the writ of habeas corpus. Suspending habeas corpus, let that sink in. Yeah, Lincoln Project. Let it sink in. Really. Don't think too hard about it. Here's Stephen Miller going absolutely balls to the wall.
Hold on, there's a question back there first.
I have 2 quick questions. First, President Trump has talked about potentially suspending habeas corpus to take care of the illegal immigration problem. When could we see that happen, do you think?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article 3 courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article 3 courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch, the courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well too. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes, yes.
Mr. Miller.
Do it. Do it. I just want to see the reaction. Why not? We're not the ones who brought in 20 million invaders into this country illegally in the dark of night using American taxpayer dollars to fundamentally change the electoral map in this country forever to favor Democrats. How do you do that? Well, when the census is taken, it says how many persons live in a specific region. That is what the U.S. Census Bureau does. They find the number of persons. It actually says in the Constitution, it doesn't say citizens. It says persons. Now, this is something that could be amended, I suppose, and it should be. But that would be a very interesting question. So what's going to happen is they're going to count a census of this country right there, and they're going to count criminal aliens in blue districts. I mean, what was kind of interesting, what may horribly backfire, I saw this on X this weekend, may horribly backfire for Democrats, is if the Trump administration does mass incarceration of criminal aliens and they do that in red districts, would they get counted in those red districts? Let's say you took 20 million criminal aliens and you moved them to internment camps, right? Like immigration, ICE detention camps. You say you're illegal, you're not allowed to be here legally. And then the census counted them, but those internment camps were in Kansas or Iowa or Ohio. Does the census count that? I don't know. I mean, would that is that going to give like 20 new seats to the congressional seats to the Midwest? This is what Democrats are trying to do. This is what they have done in places like California and in Chicago. You can see, if you look at a Illinois congressional map, you can see exactly the result of unlimited criminal immigration. And this is the purpose. It's their stated purpose. And so, I don't know. I'm not sure. But I do know that repelling that invasion and returning the criminal invaders to their home is the correct move. Suspending the writ of habeas corpus? Go for it. Go for it. Let's see the freak out, and let's see him fight it. I'm sure the Lincoln Project will be so very upset, ladies and gentlemen. So much breaking news, so much happening so quickly. We're so happy to have partners at Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is our cell phone provider. They make sure that we are locked in to the news cycle and that we are loaded and ready to go with fast-moving, perfectly connected, tuned within an inch of their lives, cell service, no matter where we go. And we are filming all across the country, and we are often on the road. And so, ladies and gentlemen, staying connected and flexible is something very important for us. Stay connected with their flexible unlimited data plans to fit your lifestyle. These plans offer high-speed data, mobile hotspots, international roaming, device protection, and even internet backup. And the best part, when you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're supporting a company that believes in faith, family, and freedom, if you believe in the First and Second Amendment rights, sanctity of life, and supporting our veterans. This is where you belong. Switch today. Switching is simple. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT and get a free month of service with the promo code Benny. Make the switch today and defend freedom with every single call or text that you make. patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT. We just want to thank you for tuning in with us to this very exciting day. We're sorry that Marjorie couldn't make it. A lot of members of Congress are traveling today. They have to be back in session tomorrow, so they traveled today, and she was in the airport, and that's just the way it goes. She'll be joining us tomorrow for every single day on the show. We have a verse of the day on the show. Today's verse from James 4:7. Submit yourselves to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Practicing some of this weekend. You have to constantly practice this. You must be willing and able to say Christ is King. I say it in the chat earlier in the show. We were listening to Trump. You have to be able to say it because there's power in it. There's power in the Spirit. We are having a physical experience, but we're spiritual beings. And the war, while we fight a political and culture war on this show, there's a greater overall spiritual war between light and darkness. Part of the reason why we're stuck on this whole Epstein thing, right? Like that seems like a major battle between light and darkness wants to win so badly there. Darkness wants to hurt, especially the innocent, like little children. So submit yourselves to God and resist it, and the devil will flee, and God's got you. Ladies and gentlemen, we march with you. We march onto truth and to victory. We've proven that time and time again on this show. And this morning is absolutely no exception. So we're thankful for you. We're thankful to the chat. Hearts out to the chat. And you go have a fantastic Monday. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
Return from the skies. Traveling dead of G. Melting river of light. The arms of a warrior, the heart of a dragon, the heart and armor and the heart of an American. Make our country great again. gonna be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.